invasion is growing. He indicated U.S. intelligence reports suggest an invasion would begin with aerial bombardments of the country, cyber warfare, and then a substantial ground offensive. And he indicated the government in Kiev may not survive.
There are very real possibilities that it will involve the seizure of a significant amount of territory in Ukraine and the seizure of major cities, including the capital city.
He denied reports suggesting President Biden has told NATO allies that the US now believes President Putin has taken a final decision to invade. He said he had seen no intelligence to support those claims. But he issued a plea to American citizens in Ukraine to leave now, saying there would be no US military rescue operation after any Russian attack begins.
We obviously cannot predict the future. We don't know exactly what is going to happen. But the risk is now high enough, and the threat is now immediate enough, that this is what prudence demands. If you stay, you are assuming risk, with no guarantee that there will be any other opportunity to leave, and no prospect of a U.S. military evacuation in the event of a Russian invasion.
President Biden is spending the weekend at Camp David, talking to his national security team and awaiting a response from Moscow. Mr. Sullivan said the president is willing to talk to President Putin. European governments are ordering their citizens to evacuate Ukraine. The Pentagon is sending 3,000 more troops to Poland. Earlier today, Russia's defense minister pledged in talks with his British counterpart that there are no invasion plans. But it is apparent that in Washington, that promise is simply no longer believed. In other news today, the Biden administration is urging the Canadian government to resolve trucker protests that are now disrupting travel and trade along the US-Canadian border. From FSN's Washington bureau, Caroline Malone with that story.
Groups of truckers have blocked the Ambassador Bridge connecting Ontario to Detroit for 4 straight days. They're calling themselves the Freedom Convoy against vaccine mandates and other COVID-19 restrictions. The Transport Link is the busiest US-Canada border crossing, which accounts for at least 25% of all trade between the two nations. There's already been a big impact on car manufacturing, with some plants halting production while they wait for parts. Authorities in the United States are also concerned that similar protests could block major US cities. Caroline Malone, Washington.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, at length, a clarion warning about the dangers facing global democracy. It came yesterday from former British Prime Minister Sir John Major, speaking at the Institute for Government.
In each of the last 15 years, democracy has shrunk a little as political and civil liberties have been diminished. In many countries, democracy has never taken root. Where it has, it risks being weakened by populism, often with added xenophobia, or muzzled by elected autocracy. It's challenged by protest groups or new and more extreme political movements. Even our great allies in the United States are facing populist attacks on their democracy. Now, good government, by which I mean democratic government, has a duty to deliver unwelcome messages to electors. That isn't easy. Isn't easy in a world in which politicians are under continuous scrutiny from an uncontrolled internet, a 24-hour media, and an increasing number of impatient special interest groups. The hard truth is, while government can do much, it can't do everything. All problems can't be swiftly and painlessly resolved on demand. It is literally an impossible task. If politicians admit that, they earn trust and respect.
Sir John Major with a critique not just of recent developments in Britain, but a warning of the dangers to democracy everywhere else. The main news again, the US government is warning that the Russians have now arrayed enough forces on the country's border with Ukraine and in Belarus to launch an invasion that could overthrow the government in Kiev. And they're urging American citizens in Ukraine to leave the country within the next 48 hours. One other headline, the Biden administration is urging the government in Canada to resolve trucker protests that are now disrupting travel and trade along the border with the United States. And that is the latest feature story news. Simon Marks reporting.
Welcome back to the War for the White House bunker. A troubling new report from the Shuttleworth Institute shows that due to Facebook, every potential candidate for the 2040 presidential race, no matter how smart or accomplished, is now completely unelectable. I'm standing in the 2012 Democrat with Jason Copeland. Jason, walk us through this.
Yeah, we're looking at really a political crisis. The Democrats are currently searching basements and creepy backyard sheds in search of somebody who was kidnapped at a young enough age that they have no online presence.
That is a very interesting tactic.
And the GOP has been looking at this young man. This is a 20-year-old Jeeves Jones. He's currently living in Appalachia with his fundamentalist Christian grandmother and no electricity.
So Jeeves has no Facebook page?
Jeeves does not. In fact, he's completely illiterate. And the Republican Party has begun grooming him for a possible candidacy in 2036.
All right. Well, at least there's someone. Thank you, Jason Copeland.
Thanks, Andrea.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live, and you can bring up whatever is on your mind. The number here is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. We got the latest on the Freedom Convoy, which is now crossing into 2 full weeks of occupation in and around the Parliament building of Ottawa, Canada. So we got the latest on that coming up here, and of course your calls and thoughts on whatever you want, plus some interesting cryptocurrency-related news. With you in the studio tonight, it's Ian.
Nobody.
And Chris.
So to start things out here, there's a little bit of good news and a little bit of bad news coming out of Ottawa. Of course, the protest continues. The convoy of what may be hundreds, some say thousands of drivers have come through, and many have stayed in Ottawa, Canada for the last 2 weeks. Some are saying that they are willing to stay on for weeks more if need be until all COVID-19 related restrictions are dropped. And I presume that means in every province or territory of Canada.
They are, after all, long-haul truckers.
That's true. Prepared for this. Yep. And so as they're doing their thing, and they're just, having a good time. They're playing hockey games. They got, bounce houses for the kids. There's dance parties in the streets.
Crazy, weird techno music.
Yeah. And things have escalated, unfortunately, of course, because the government gang, that's what they do. They escalate things. They make things violent and
I think it's the only thing they know how to do.
And they threaten people. And so they came out in Ottawa, the city. The mayor on Sunday issued a state of emergency, and that's when they started to come around and confiscate people's gas canisters. That's when they started to threaten and arrest people for bringing in gas cans to try to bring in quote-unquote material support.
Yeah, it was something like they're charging them with mischief, which just sounds absolutely crazy. Like, what evidence do you have of criminal mischief because you have a gas can with gas in it, maybe?
Well, in a lot of cases, they have empty gas cans or gas cans with water in them just to troll the police. So that's some of the interesting developments we've seen over the last week. But as of the last 24 hours, last night we discussed Give, Send, Go, which is one of the alternatives to the GoFundMe. Now, for listeners,
isn't it Go Fraud Me?
Right. The GoFundMe people, they had raised $10 million through GoFundMe. GoFundMe froze the account. It was 10 million Canadian, by the way. They froze the account, and then GoFundMe ultimately decided they were going to cancel the entire thing, although they had given out $1 or $1.5 million already to the fundraisers organizers. But then we found out the TD Bank froze that $1.5 million.
Wait, really?
When it hit the bank account.
Wow.
Now, supposedly they jumped through. They hired a lawyer. They got their attorneys to talk to TD Bank. They got them to release the funds.
This is like a perfect example of why we need cryptocurrencies.
Yes.
Absolutely.
By the way, the crypto fundraiser hit 21 million. 21 bitcoins. Not quite 21 million.
That's still a lot.
Still a lot of Bitcoin
money.
Yeah.
So they hit their goal.
Yeah. I mean, I have a feeling a lot of people don't understand the importance of cryptocurrencies. And, if there was ever, if there was, I mean, I guess there probably have been other examples like the WikiLeaks case. But, this is how the governments react. And this is why you need cryptocurrency. Even if this isn't your particular issue, even if you don't care about, the truck drivers or, the mandates or any of this right now, what happens when they do something that you do care about? Like they start taking your kids or, I don't know, there's any number of things that they could start doing next week that you will care about.
Right.
And how are you going to stop it? You're not going to be able to if you continue to use the banking system.
Yeah, if you're relying on centralized banks, that is a plan to fail.
Yeah, and now they're calling protest terrorism, but the Department of Homeland Security just released a statement saying that people distributing misinformation are terrorists.
Oh, really?
Yes, they're domestic terrorists now, and they're not talking about Fauci, the king of misinformation. They're talking about people who are simply wrong or simply disagree with the misinformation that is distributed through official channels.
Right. Misinformation is now defined as anything that is contrary to what the government says.
Exactly. And they need to rename the Department of Homeland Security to the Ministry of Truth.
It's almost there, right? We're pretty much to that point. Except they've got the tech companies doing their bidding for them. So instead of the department themselves doing the censoring or whatever, they have private corporations that are essentially doing that work.
Well, semi-private. I mean, it's certainly interesting that the day that Facebook was launched, a DARPA project that was supposed to gather information on citizens was canceled. And if you look at the descriptions of the two projects, they're almost identical. So,
things that make you go,
Yes. Facebook may well be simply a renamed DARPA project.
So I can't remember the details, but I think Facebook and Google are both, if I recall correctly, started out with funding from the government. With I don't know which agency it was, but there was an agency that provided them seed funding. So it's not beyond belief.
Yeah, and it's an easy dodge. Oh, the government isn't allowed to give up your personal information? Great, let it form a private corporation, nurture it along, and let that private corporation then be perfectly willing to give up, so-called private corporation, be perfectly willing to give up your private information.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure we've brought in stories covering, I think it was it Switzerland, a company that basically they designed like encryption equipment, like sending like, I don't know if it was encrypted fax or certainly encrypted phone communication. But it was aimed at governments, right? So when the UK wants to talk to France, well, they'd go to this company, supposedly an independent company, but really it was backed by like the CIA or something like that.
So they're listening in.
Yeah.
On everything.
So what you think is encrypted private communication between France, and the UK is actually being intercepted by the US government because it's.
Well, and of course, the CIA was just in the news as well. I don't know if you guys have seen these headlines all over the place that now the CIA has been revealed to have been, guess what, spying on Americans without a warrant. And
did we not know that?
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Well, now it's the CIA that's being revealed. Of course, the Edward Snowden revealed the NSA years ago.
And the CIA is supposedly, if they played by their own rules, would not be operating domestically.
Correct.
They're not permitted to. Although
is the CIA prohibited?
Of course, that doesn't. Yeah, the CIA.
Supposedly,
I thought it was.
The CIA.
I thought it was like
is the one that's only permitted to operate overseas. Although of course, that doesn't stop them.
I know there's one of these or one or more of these agencies are prohibited from operating in the U.S., but I didn't think it was the CIA.
That's the CIA.
But I was to say I might be wrong.
The Edward Snowden posted about it today. He says CIA mass bulk surveillance has been carried out, quote, entirely outside the statutory framework and without any judicial, congressional, or even executive branch oversight. The nature and full extent was withheld even from the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. These are, according to the ACLU, newly declassified documents. that are revealing that the CIA has been secretly conducting massive surveillance programs capturing Americans' supposedly private information.
But the deep state is just a conspiracy theory, and people never conspire. That's why nobody's ever charged with conspiracy.
Well, I'm sure these CIA
Which is
agents,
interesting considering that I have been indicted for conspiracy, so I guess that's just another conspiracy theory.
Surely the CIA will be brought up on charges right away, and their agents will be put in jail cells for violating their orders and No, they're not going to.
Yeah.
Nah, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, definitely not going to happen.
Laws are for the little people.
Right.
They're not for the officials.
Yeah, they can break all of their rules anytime they want to and face little more than a tongue lashing in public by a senator or two, and because that's apparently there's a couple senators that revealed this, and the rest of us will go to prison.
Yeah,
if we break their rules.
Yep.
So the number here is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. But it's quite clear that these people don't care about the Constitution or any kind of ground rules that they're supposed to obey. They just do whatever it is they want to do. And eventually, sometimes they get caught for it.
But nothing happens.
And then they keep doing what they want.
Yeah.
There are basically two types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
After a devastating war, the alien visitors were driven back, and their willing human collaborators were left behind to face the music. When Emma Jean Anderson's ex-lover brings her from prison, Nathan Foster and his 14-year-old nephew Ben are tasked with bringing the pair to justice. An easy enough job until they discover something is inside Emma Jean, and the fate of the planet hangs in the balance. The Family Business by Mike Coopery from BaneBooks.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com. Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 27th through July 3rd for the 6th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which sold out for the first time in 2021. Fork Fest takes place the week after Pork Fest, but Fork Fest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 27th through July 3rd. There's no better place to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire. You can find out more at the unofficial website, forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the Forkfest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the Forkfest Forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there. Forkfest.party. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. The phones are open here if you want to join us, whether it's talking about the CIA spying, surprise, on Americans, or
that's just a conspiracy theory.
Or what's going on in Ottawa, which we didn't get to yet. So I do definitely want to update people on the latest on the Trucker Freedom Convoy on the way here. The number is 603-283-6160. You can also bring up whatever's on your mind. Ian, Nobody, and Chris in the studio tonight. Also, Freedom's Phoenix is a liberty-oriented news aggregation site. So if you want the newest and freshest stories and perspectives on current events from those who value liberty, well, freedomsphoenix.com has them. And they have the Daily Dispatch. You can sign up for that, and you'll stay up to date on science, technology, historical findings, liberty news, government overspending, and the rise of the police state. It's Freedoms with an S, Phoenix.com. That's freedomsphoenix.com. We'll go back into the CIA story here, plus, again, the Freedom Convoy. We got some crypto news. Lots to talk about here tonight. But first, he's Dave Ridley, calling us from RidleyReport.com. Hello, Dave.
Hey, guys.
What's on your mind?
I've never had to call you and complain about a cryptocurrency. None of the thousands of coins that exist until now. And I have a serious complaint about Voyager token. Are you familiar with this?
No, but there are a ton of scams out there. So what's this one?
Yeah, this one is a little bit more established, and it's been around a while. But it, first of all, they're being sued for alleged hidden fees. I don't know that much about that, but the problem I had with them was they took their coin one day and they just said, "Well, you can't use this coin anymore. You've got 1 month to sort of switch over to this other coin we're going to have, and then after that, the coins you hold will be useless." Well, not everybody checks, constantly their coins, right? And an investment is supposed to be something that you just let it sit there, right?
Right.
You might want to check on it, but you shouldn't have to watch it like a babysitter. And so, yeah, one day I log in and all of my Voyager tokens were useless.
Wow. And so they literally only gave people a month to make the changeover. A lot of times when these things happen in the crypto world, and they do happen, this isn't unheard of, they'll upgrade the system or whatever, and then everybody's got to move their coins. They will be the path to upgrade will always be open, right? Like, so that way if you come 6 months later or a year later or 2 years later, there's still a path to do. You're saying they completely closed down the option to switch it over?
Essentially.
Wow.
I mean, is this an actual cryptocurrency? It's.
And by the way, also I contacted them 3 times for help. Like, hey, what do I do here? They wouldn't even respond.
Oof, bad sign. Yeah, this is to answer your question, Chris. Apparently, this is an Ethereum token. So no, it is not an actual cryptocurrency. It is a token on the Ethereum blockchain, as many other tokens exist. Currently ranked at 122 of the global total market cap rankings.
Wow. That's pretty high to be engaged in shenanigans.
Yeah,
it's not the kind of shenanigans that sometimes are associated with. I mean, people are associated with. We're used to the idea of someone in their basement, pretending like they have a thing going, and it's not. But this is like a fairly major exchange type of operation, and that was doing this.
Wow.
That's pretty horrific.
So what is this thing's use case? Why is it interesting? Why did you initially decide to get into it?
I watched a guy named Supoman, who was a crypto commentator, and he recommended it, so I bought just a little bit, in the 2017 era when it was called Bitcoin. Then they changed it to something else, then they changed it to Voyager token. It went through a lot of, it came along when the market crashed, but it did survive, kept changing. But again, changing is not supposed to mean you change in the sense that you can't cash out your coins.
Yeah, that's That's bad. And, giving people notice, how are you supposed to do that when you don't even know everybody who holds your token?
Right, you have no way of reaching them.
There's no reason to assume that you're going to have an email list of all the people holding your token. Right. Quite the opposite. You should assume that you're not going to have such a list.
These tokens are available on decentralized exchanges. So anyone who wants to can go and acquire these things with any Ethereum or any other Ethereum token. You can go to Uniswap and just swap out, and there's not even a login required for that.
A lot of my thoughts on this are if you don't have a use case for it, you probably shouldn't be investing in it. I
agree.
It's like if you can't come up with a good reason to use it, like outside of, it's an investment, it probably doesn't have a lot of use for anybody else either.
Yep, that is important.
I should clarify that Supo Man was actually right about Bitcoins. It was a pretty good coin, and they did some good stuff, and they just got hit by the market. And they did try to take care of their customers for a long period of time, but over time, you kept becoming new owners or whatever who'd be bought out, and it was a good thing at first, and it did go up in value. But again, when Voyager token got a hold of it,
well, a lot of things go up in value at first because they're being pumped up on purpose by their advocates. We've seen this happen time and time again. Like we just talked about the quote-unquote Ethereum Max token just a week ago, which was they had hired Kim Kardashian and some other influencers to pump their token back in May of last year, and then what do you know? It crashed immediately after that was done. So whoever it was that was the founder of the token probably sold at the top of the pump. And a bunch of other people got left holding the bag, and now there's a lawsuit about that. Again, you have to ask the question: what is the purpose of the token that you're looking at, or the cryptocurrency that you're looking at? Just because price go up doesn't mean that it has any kind of fundamentals that are going to continue its growth on into the future. So just because somebody recommends something online, is not a reason to buy it, in my opinion.
Yeah, and even things that do have a good use case. I mean, it happens with all kinds of businesses, not just crypto businesses, where something has a good business plan, good management, good execution, and then somebody else buys them out, and the next thing you know,
in the toilet.
They go to hell.
Yeah, this is one of the reasons why I tend to like to focus on things that are, like the major merchant providers are tools enable you to like accept it in a business, like things like that. Just because it's like, well, if nobody's accepting it, right, then there's probably not going to be a lot of usefulness for it, right? Maybe there are in some cases, like Monero, because it's a privacy friendly coin. There are certain markets that privacy is a very, very important thing, and so therefore it might have some value, right? But a lot of these cryptos, they're not that different from the next crypto. So
especially if they're an Ethereum token,
because
if that's not even a cryptocurrency, it's just,
if you can't spend it, again, where's the usefulness, right? Like why put your money into something that doesn't even have the fundamental tools to use it?
Dave, thanks for the call tonight. Definitely appreciate it. This, unfortunately, is a lesson that a lot of people, learn the hard way. And thank you. I appreciate the discussion here. Thanks for bringing it up. The number is 603-283-6160. Do your due diligence. Do some research. If you don't have even a grasp of what the thing is you're getting into, don't do it, in my opinion. I know we're not financial advisors or anything like that, but I think that's, a good suggestion.
Yeah.
The number here is 603-283-6160, and you can bring up whatever's on your mind. You can share your thoughts, whether it's crypto or CIA. It's Free Talk Live.
And now, time for something totally different. Intercoin is a project that's working to make crypto mainstream. We use the power of smart contracts to help any community in the world launch their own cryptocurrency. Ever wanted to release your own coin or build your own app to grow your business? Intercoin's team builds apps that have reached 9 million people around the world. And now it's time to help make a real social impact in your local community. Go to intercoin.org and join the movement. That's intercoin.org.
You know, when we first started Intercoin about 3 years ago, we had a big vision to help every community in the world have access to the same tools that large states and federations do, to hold local elections on the blockchain, to have their own local currency, shop local, hire local, and help fight the forces of globalization that have decimated some of these communities.
Go to intercoin.org and join the movement.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks.
Russia could choose in very short order to commence a major military action against Ukraine.
U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan warning that the Russians have now arrayed sufficient forces on the country's border with Ukraine and in neighboring Belarus that the likelihood of an invasion is growing. He indicated U.S. intelligence reports suggest an invasion would begin with aerial bombardments of the country, cyber warfare, and then a substantial ground offensive. And he indicated the government in Kiev may not survive.
There are very real possibilities that it will involve the seizure of a significant amount of territory in Ukraine and the seizure of major cities, including the capital city.
He denied reports suggesting President Biden has told NATO allies that the U.S. now believes President Putin has taken a final decision to invade. He said he had seen no intelligence to support those claims. But he issued a plea to American citizens in Ukraine to leave now, saying there would be no U.S. military rescue operation after any Russian attack begins.
We obviously cannot predict the future. We don't know exactly what is going to happen. But the risk is now high enough, and the threat is now immediate enough, that this is what prudence demands. If you stay, you are assuming risk, with no guarantee that there will be any other opportunity to leave, and no prospect of a U.S. military evacuation in the event of a Russian invasion.
President Biden is spending the weekend at Camp David, talking to his national security team and awaiting a response from Moscow. Mr. Sullivan said the president is willing to talk to President Putin. European governments are ordering their citizens to evacuate Ukraine. The Pentagon is sending 3,000 more troops from the 82nd Airborne to Poland. Earlier today, Russia's defense minister pledged in talks with his British counterpart that there are no invasion plans. But it is apparent that in Washington, that promise is simply no longer believed. In other news today, the Biden administration is urging the Canadian government to resolve trucker protests that are now disrupting travel and trade along the US-Canadian border. From FSN's Washington bureau, Caroline Malone with that story.
Groups of truckers have blocked the Ambassador Bridge connecting Ontario to Detroit for 4 straight days. They're calling themselves the Freedom Convoy against vaccine mandates and other COVID-19 restrictions. The Transport Link is the busiest US-Canada border crossing, which accounts for at least 25% of all trade between the two nations. There's already been a big impact on car manufacturing, with some plants halting production while they wait for parts. Authorities in the United States are also concerned that similar protests could block major US cities. Caroline Malone, Washington.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FS.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live, you can join the show here. You can take control of the airwaves. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Ian, Nobody, and Chris are here with you tonight. And we've got more to say coming up. I want to dig a little further into the CIA story, because that's big news. There's also the continuing developments in Ottawa, Canada, and now with the Ontario province declaring a state of emergency. They're again preparing to
Quick, somebody panic.
Crack down on the brave drivers and their supporters who are there occupying the streets in Ottawa. So we can tell you more about that. Of course, phones are open and you can bring up whatever you want. We ended up talking about questionable crypto tokens and cryptocurrencies out there. There literally are thousands of these things. It that means there's a lot of bad opportunities out there, and it's hard to know in advance what's going to work out and what's not, because you don't know what the market's ultimately going to do. But there are some things that clearly have no purpose to exist beyond the whole pump and dump thing.
When you say they're looking good and then they blow up the space station and they're trapped on the other side of the galaxy and they've got to get home and it's going to take them 70 years.
When you say good opportunities, you're talking about for the founders of these, tokens and cryptos and things, right? Not the end users, not the people who are investing in them, correct?
Well, no, I meant the investors. I mean, there are some opportunities out there. Whether they'll pan out or not is a whole other question. But again, if you don't know what you're getting into, and that's not to say you have to know programming, like you don't have to audit the code necessarily, but you should at least read a little bit about the thing and get a grasp for what it's trying to do and for if it fills some sort of a market need, because the market can be kind of irrational in a lot of ways.
Oh,
right?
yeah, can it ever?
Like the three of us, we value the idea of privacy, so I think it's fair to say that we like privacy coins, right? We like Monero, for instance, or Pirate Coin, or whatever the other, those are probably two of the better ones.
I like privacy coins. There's always one big question mark in my brain about privacy coins, which is, if you can't look at the blockchain and see what's happening, how do you know that transfers have really been made?
And how do you know how much is coming out of the mining process? And there's a lot of question marks about that.
That worries me.
But, as much as we like the idea of privacy, the marketplace says Monero is the number 47th coin right now. So, I mean, it's not it's barely in the top 50 as far as market cap is concerned.
Which is crazy, because there's more of a use case for Monero than there is for
most of what's above it.
Cryptos, right? And look, okay, fine, I get it. It maybe doesn't have more value currently than, say, Bitcoin or Bitcoin Cash or even Dash, but certainly it has, more value than every other crypto that's out there.
Even Bitcoin Cash is about to fall out of the top 25, and that used to be a top 10 coin.
Yeah.
Wow.
Dash is somewhere around, 70, 80. Well, let me see if I can find where. 94.
At least with Dash, there's tools for merchants to accept it, right? Yep. And they're widespread, right? Whereas most of these coins, where do you spend them? I mean, you can't. You first have to convert it to something else. Right. So
a lot of them are just focused around technology. They're not actually intended to be used as money or as currency.
Do they have a use case though? What good are they? Why would I want to have them?
Well, that's something you have to look at each one of them and ask that question.
I guess, but
for instance, like Dash, which is, they call it that because it's digital cash. It's intended to be used as a currency in real life. They've got some of the coolest stuff going on. I pay attention to what goes on with Dash. They just came out with a beta test of a know your customer less, meaning there is no supposedly know your customer requirements, MasterCard.
Oh yeah!
Oh, wow!
Yeah, I think I heard about this.
Yeah, it literally just got announced within the last 24 to 48 hours. Now the physical card isn't yet available, but they're going to have that supposedly. So it's like one of those online things. I'm kind of curious how that
works, because
it's like an online thing.
Anytime you integrate anything with a banking system, which is highly regulated,
I can't imagine how they did this.
How do you comply? And
I don't know.
I have some suspicions. It probably comes down to how much they will permit to be utilized through the card.
I did see something about $1,000 limit.
Yeah, if it's limited sufficiently, it might technically comply with the rules. So
whatever they've done, it's something I'm very curious to learn more about. So they're coming out with some really interesting applications, and making it easier to spend crypto in real life, which is cool. But again, number 94. So the market is the market doesn't value, the crypto market doesn't value the same things that we necessarily do. Let's talk to Sam. He's in Ohio. Sam, you're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you if you thought when New Hampshire gets independence, if that will severely weaken the dollar because of how weak it already is.
Doubtful.
Yeah, I mean the federal government is going to weaken the dollar. There's not really anything that I don't think our independence or lack thereof is going to be a factor.
Even if New Hampshire produced it, they decide we're going to do our own currency, right? We're not going to use, or we're just not going to use the US dollar in New Hampshire. You're talking about 1 million, I think it's 1.2 million people for New Hampshire. The United States has 320 million people. Then take into account there's a lot of other countries way bigger than New Hampshire that also use the US dollar. And all of a sudden you understand it ain't going to decrease in value probably at all if New Hampshire became independent or stopped using the dollar.
Yeah, it's going to decrease in value because they're printing it like there's no tomorrow.
That's why it will go down in value, not because New Hampshire uses or doesn't use it.
Right, they just crossed $30 trillion national debt, and that's 2 months after they crossed $29 trillion, I think. I think that happened in December. But, the other thing about this is, Sam, if and when, rather, I think we should say when, New Hampshire secedes, you have to remember, ideally, the correct monetary policy is to have no monetary policy, to allow the market to decide what is money. So whether that be cryptocurrency, whether that be gold backs, or whether that be the dollar, I think what you're going to see, at least immediately right after independence, is most people are going to continue using the dollar just because that's what they're used to doing.
Yeah.
There's no reason, like you said, other countries use the dollar. El Salvador, for instance, uses the dollar.
It's funny because even countries that are hostile to the United States, like North Korea, they use the dollar.
Sure.
So, I mean, it's,
I don't think you're going to see the dollar going away unless it finally hits hyperinflation. Then you might see people saying, well, I don't want these anymore.
Yeah, there's definitely some effort by a handful of countries to move away from the dollar, but not anywhere near enough to make a difference.
Yeah, and of course. Go ahead.
So you're saying you wouldn't think the free market of New Hampshire being its own country, if all of New Hampshireans at that point didn't use it, it wouldn't devalue it enough, you don't think?
It wouldn't be noticeable is what it would be. I mean, it might devalue it, but not noticeably.
Well, to answer the question as far as the value of the dollar, it's the printing of more dollars and what people believe about them that, is the two of the major factors in what their value is. So if the people of New Hampshire do this, amazing thing that you're talking about, and that is eschew the idea of using the dollar completely across the board, then that indicates that there would probably be other people in the world making that same choice, right? Because we don't exist in a vacuum. Even though New Hampshire, even when it secedes, we're still in a global economy. People are still people, and they're still going to make choices because of whatever reasons they make choices. And people are used to using the dollar, so that's why it's not going to just go away overnight or even in a week. But if the dollar goes to hyperinflation, or when it goes to hyperinflation, that's when people, New Hampshire and elsewhere, are going to start thinking twice, because they're already seeing the effects of inflation and they don't like it, but they don't know enough to look for another alternative yet. Hyperinflation is going to incentivize that.
I mean, and the other thing that has to happen is there has to be another way globally to buy oil. And right now, because of the petrodollar hegemony, there's no other way to grow oil, to buy oil.
Yep.
And if you try to create another way to buy oil,
they bomb you.
The last people to do it were Saddam Hussein and Muammar Gaddafi, and they both have their heads on pikes. So.
Sam, thanks for the call tonight. Definitely appreciate it. The number here is 603-283-6160. But since he brings up New Hampshire, Chris, you've got a story. I also have the same one about a new cryptocurrency news coming out.
A congressman recently revealed that legislation totaling 2,900 pages and involving more than $1 trillion was available to members of Congress for less than 48 hours to study and consider. That's over 60 pages of legislation per hour. Do you think anyone read the entire bill? I'm Jim Babka with DownsizeDC.org. Consider a proposal buried in a 3,200-page, $388 billion bill, which would have empowered committee chairmen or their agents to examine Americans' tax returns. When this horrible provision came to light, no one claimed to know how it got into the bill. One congressman questioned said, "I didn't write it, I didn't approve it, I wasn't even consulted." If your attorney represented you this way, he might be disbarred. But this is how Congress represents you every day. That's why DownsizeDC.org has created the Read the Bills Act. You can force Congress to read their bills before they pass them at DownsizeDC.org.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live, and you can bring up anything here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it's Ian,
nobody, and Chris.
We're kind of jumping all over the place here in this first hour. We've had some calls come in, and that's fine because we like talking to you about whatever's on your mind. But one of our callers just made reference to New Hampshire and money and talking about what happens when New Hampshire declares independence from the United States, what's going to happen to the dollar. And I think it's a safe bet to say the dollar will, unless it has already hit hyperinflation at that point, it's likely that people are going to keep using the dollar until they find a better option. And while we believe that there are better options out there, whether it be using the gold back, which also has been in the news recently, by the way, InfoWars, Epoch Times, and others have done feature pieces now on the gold back, which is amazing.
Nice.
So they've been getting a ton of coverage. Or whether it be cryptocurrency, in New Hampshire, we do have the benefit of actually being able to use these things.
We do.
You guys just came from a restaurant tonight that accepts both of those alternatives, right?
Yeah. And I didn't pay with goldbacks, but I did pay with crypto. So.
Very nice. Well, you're allowed to do that. I can't pay with crypto.
I know. It's a good thing that they take gold back.
I can pay with gold
What
back
would you
now.
do, right?
Yeah.
Like, what would you do?
It hurts me to pay with dollars,
right?
That's like, to me, that's haram. It is against God.
This is why.
This
This is why I'm always talking about. When I don't say cash, I say dirty fiat when I'm talking about the dollar. Or any kind
Filthy
of
fiat.
the
the
devil's
euro
lettuce.
The devil's lettuce.
Yeah, that's good.
It's bad stuff. I mean, it's blood money,
It
right?
is.
The dollar is blood money.
Absolutely.
It's based on violence. It's based on threats. It's based on illusions and lies. And, good people should use these alternatives. So the good news is in New Hampshire, there are actually multiple businesses that take the gold back. There are multiple businesses that take cryptocurrency.
I think there's more businesses that take the gold back than we even realize, because this area
There's dozens
is
of
not.
them.
This area has a bunch, but it doesn't have anywhere near as much as I think some other areas, because I think they've done some marketing in other areas, but they haven't made it to Keene yet.
There's a better there's a handful of places in Keene that
There
do,
are,
though.
but I'm just saying, I think some of the other areas are even more.
Keene's
There's more
king
places
with
that accept it.
crypto. Keene's the
Absolutely,
king
for
with
crypto,
with
for
crypto
sure.
acceptance. But as far as gold backs, it's actually better spread across the state.
Yeah,
there's a
definitely.
variety of places all over New Hampshire that are taking gold backs, and it's wonderful to see these things happening here. But it's going to be a natural phenomenon of moving people from one to the next. It takes time. We have to introduce people to these things, and
Got to print more of it.
We've got to. There's got to be more gold backs, and there are going to be more gold backs.
Yeah,
They're coming
yeah.
out with the 2022.
They can't keep
versions
up with the demand
that's right.
as it stands, so we can't move too fast, right?
They're flipping on their extra production facility though, so they're going to have
They're going to like double it, I think, right?
I think
or more?
quadruple. I think they're going to quadruple their output.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
that should help quite a bit. But then again, like I said, they just got a major blow up in press coverage over this past weekend.
Yeah.
So we'll see how, see how long they can keep the orders fulfilled quickly. But there's news here. Do you have this pulled up? The Cointelegraph story,
Yeah.
Chris? Do you want to share this with us?
Yeah, sure. So
Because it's very similar news to something that happened half a decade ago, but it's happening again.
in New Hampshire, half a decade ago.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm not entirely sure what you're referencing. But
we'll talk about it.
Yeah, I have this. I might know what you're talking about. If it's relating to other crypto stuff that's happened at the state level, but so this story is basically the New Hampshire governor issues executive order establishing commission to study crypto. Now I know
which is what already happened 5 years ago.
Right, which is why I'm not entirely sure what is different about this.
The difference, as I understand it, is this is the governor establishing the commission versus the state representatives, I believe, established it last time. I think that's the difference here.
I think you might be right, but I'm not quite sure I understood what happened last time, because what I recall is at least at some point one of the reps said, like, who was on the commission, he didn't quite fully understand like why they even had the commission, and because it was like everybody was in agreement on the crypto stuff.
Well, it's called a study committee.
Yeah.
And so their job is to, hear different opinions and get, input from different players or whatever and come up with potential policy recommendations.
Yeah, but
that's
the
what
commission,
they do.
The commission was supposed to, the study committee was supposed to, they were supposed to have a hearing or a meeting, I guess, every so often. And
once a year at least, but they could meet more often if they wanted to.
Right, and but there was never really a need for that, right? There was a decision.
There's plenty
that was
of things
made.
the government does that there's no need for.
Right, I know, but it just seems so weird, because it's like, okay, well, what good did that do? And now it's like, okay, so now the governor's doing this new commission to study crypto, but we've kind of gone through that process already.
Yes, we have, but they're going to do it again.
Yeah,
they've already come to the right answer, which is the government doesn't need to do anything about crypto.
Correct. That was ultimately what the old commission did come to the conclusion of, and then they said, well, okay, well, we still have to meet once a year.
So there was I think the basis of it for one thing, and I think that had to do with the banking commission and removing cryptocurrency from the list of things that the banking commission of New Hampshire could regulate. But besides that, I don't think there was anything else that the committee was even supposed to do, really, other than like meet and talk about like
that's what they did,
crypto, right? But it's like, why would you have to keep coming back once you've
they
come
could
to
just
an
come
assessment?
to the crypto
Right.
meetup every Sunday,
right? Like, do we really need
the funky noodle?
Do we really need a reps meeting and doing a crypto meetup once a year or whatever? I just didn't get it.
No, we didn't, but they kept doing it.
I know, like I didn't get it. And it didn't
they
seem
were
like
ordered
the committee
to do it, so they did it.
I know, but I think even the reps team seemed to understand like why they were doing it. I don't know. I just thought it was
They were just going
hilarious.
through the motions. In theory, Chris, what could have happened is if some sort of other thing came up where they needed to study cryptocurrency in some specific instance, they would have already had the committee formed, basically, and they would have said, okay, well, send this over to the committee to study cryptocurrency and see what they say about it. But that didn't really happen. Like they made the initial decision
Well,
of
there is one useful thing they could do, which is study how to protect crypto traders from the federal government.
That'd be nice. Yeah.
That would be a beautiful thing.
Well, I suspect some of us are going to be attending these upcoming meetings, and we will maybe have a thing or two to say about it.
I mean, I don't know. Is this supposed to be like an opportunity to propose legislation or something? Like, I'm not quite sure I understand what
It's
the point
a
of the
study
committee is.
committee. They just study things and they talk about them. And maybe they'll make recommendations. Maybe they won't. Who knows?
But when you propose a bill, they already have multiple hearings on the bill before it passes anyway for you to provide, testimony and everything else if you want to.
Well, why don't you get into the story and we'll see what it says.
The commission will have until August 8th to submit a report regarding the current status of the cryptocurrency and digital asset industry.
Okay.
Krista Nuno.
That's a thing.
Okay, I guess.
Make a report, committee. What's the status of things?
I don't know. Krista Nuno, who served as the governor of New Hampshire since 2017, has established a commission aimed at investigating the technology and laws around digital assets in addition to recommending new legislation. I feel like he's just hopping on the bandwagon like all the other governors and mayors, recently.
Yes.
That's what it feels like to me.
He might also be looking to come up with some draconian legislation.
Yeah, that's not unlikely because that's what
Sununu. This is the same guy who wants to lock us down and mask us up.
A lot of the things that the governors and the mayors are proposing to make our state or our city appealing to the crypto industry, right, is actually very authoritarian kind of ish kind of stuff. Look at like what New York did years ago where they did the bit license. I mean, I think that's I don't know why that would attract a company to New York. To me, that doesn't make any sense.
It scares them away,
right?
Yeah. Well, unless that company is based on having a lot of lawyers and a lot
of money,
and being able to suck up to politicians, because that is a huge market niche.
I will say one of the things it did do is it basically gave, I forget what company, a monopoly in New York, if I recall correctly.
Coinbase.
Gemini, wasn't it?
And Gemini. Those are two of the holders, I believe.
Yeah, and they're two of the big crony capitalist holders.
The only thing I can think of is that these types of measures or efforts is to attract money from donors for the companies who want a certain thing to happen in order to establish a monopoly in a state or a city or something of that nature. Like that seems to me like where things are going. What are your thoughts?
To comment, well, I want to talk further about this, but to comment on what you said about Sununu. In 2020, he was a total tyrant when it came to, you got to stay at home. And they didn't call it a lockdown. They called it stay at home here.
They did.
You got to
just 2 years to flatten the curve.
And, you got to put a mask on. And then all of a sudden, in late 2021, he changed his tune. And now he's pimping vaccines. But he's, let the communities decide on the mask. You don't have to stay home anymore. You can go out and it's no problem. We're not going to mandate anything anymore here in New Hampshire.
Maybe having protesters outside his mansion had something to do with that.
Maybe, and maybe the fact that he's rolling up on another election season here this year could also be another factor. But we'll continue here and you can share your thoughts. It's Free Talk Live. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone? You forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection. You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live listen line, 641-793-0191.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks.
Russia could choose in very short order to commence a major military action against Ukraine.
U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan warning that the Russians have now arrayed sufficient forces on the country's border with Ukraine and in neighboring Belarus that the likelihood of an invasion is growing. He indicated U.S. intelligence reports suggest an invasion would begin with aerial bombardments of the country, cyber warfare, and then a substantial ground offensive. And he indicated the government in Kiev may not survive.
There are very real possibilities that it will involve the seizure of a significant amount of territory in Ukraine and the seizure of major cities, including the capital city.
He denied reports suggesting President Biden has told NATO allies that the U.S. now believes President Putin has taken a final decision to invade. He said he had seen no intelligence to support those claims, but he issued a plea to American citizens in Ukraine to leave now, saying there would be no U.S. military rescue operation after any Russian attack begins.
We obviously cannot predict the future. We don't know exactly what is going to happen. But the risk is now high enough, and the threat is now immediate enough, that this is what prudence demands. If you stay, you are assuming risk, with no guarantee that there will be any other opportunity to leave, and no prospect of a U.S. military evacuation in the event of a Russian invasion.
President Biden is spending the weekend at Camp David, talking to his national security team and awaiting a response from Moscow. Mr. Sullivan said the president is willing to talk to President Putin. European governments are ordering their citizens to evacuate Ukraine. The Pentagon is sending 3,000 more troops to Poland. Earlier today, Russia's defense minister pledged in talks with his British counterpart that there are no invasion plans. But it is apparent that in Washington, that promise is simply no longer believed. In other news today, the Biden administration is urging the Canadian government to resolve trucker protests that are now disrupting travel and trade along the US-Canadian border. From FSN's Washington bureau, Caroline Malone with that story.
Groups of truckers have blocked the Ambassador Bridge connecting Ontario to Detroit for 4 straight days. They're calling themselves the Freedom Convoy against vaccine mandates and other COVID-19 restrictions. The Transport Link is the busiest US-Canada border crossing, which accounts for at least 25% of all trade between the two nations. There's already been a big impact on car manufacturing, with some plants halting production while they wait for parts. Authorities in the United States are also concerned that similar protests could block major US cities. Caroline Malone, Washington.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, at length, a clarion warning about the dangers facing global democracy. It came yesterday from former British Prime Minister Sir John Major speaking at the Institute for Government.
In each of the last 15 years, democracy has shrunk a little as political and civil liberties have been diminished. In many countries, democracy has never taken root. Where it has, it risks being weakened by populism, often with added xenophobia, or muzzled by elected autocracy. It's challenged by protest groups or new and more extreme political movements. Even our great allies in the United States are facing populist attacks on their democracy. Now, good government, by which I mean democratic government, has a duty to deliver unwelcome messages to electors. That isn't easy. Isn't easy in a world in which politicians are under continuous scrutiny from an uncontrolled internet, a 24-hour media, and an increasing number of impatient special interest groups. The hard truth is, while government can do much, it can't do everything. All problems can't be swiftly and painlessly resolved on demand. It is literally an impossible task. If politicians admit that, they earn trust and respect.
Sir John Major with a critique not just of recent developments in Britain, but a warning of the dangers to democracy everywhere else. The main news again, the US government is warning that the Russians have now arrayed enough forces on the country's border with Ukraine and in Belarus to launch an invasion that could overthrow the government in Kiev. And they're urging American citizens in Ukraine to leave the country within the next 48 hours. One other headline, the Biden administration is urging the government in Canada to resolve trucker protests that are now disrupting travel and trade along the border with the United States. And that is the latest feature story news. Simon Marks reporting.
This is the Onion Week in Review. Thousands of outraged meth addicts urged the federal government this week to address the nation's growing spider epidemic. During a marathon 72-hour meeting under the Roosevelt Bridge Monday, tweakers from across the nation drafted a 45,000-word proposal to kill all the acid-shooting spiders before they develop the powers of mind control or, God forbid, flight.
We can't grow these spiders any longer. The government has to... There's a spider there!
The addicts have agreed that the best temporary solution would be for the government to issue them large quantities of methamphetamine and steel wool. A local daddy was put in his bye-bye box Tuesday so that he could go on a long vacation with the birds and clouds in the sky. The daddy, who was once tall and strong and liked going to the hospital to play with their fun machines, was reportedly put in the bye-bye box after weeks of being sleepy all the time and never finishing his din-din. Family had come in from all over to watch daddy get dropped inside a cool underground fort full of dirt and sand, where he'll be tonight instead of being home to play Chutes and Ladders.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. Phones are open. You can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And you can bring up anything you want in the studio tonight. You've got Ian.
Nobody.
And Chris. We're going to continue lots of news here, and it's just been, we've been kind of all over the place in the last hour. Haven't really had a chance to focus on one story because your calls are coming in, and that's always what I prefer. We like talking to you because you always bring something to the table that we weren't expecting, different topics than we were planning, and I like that. So we're going to go back to the phones and to the fun. We're going to start out here this hour number 2, with Sam. He's calling us from the seacoast of New Hampshire. Sam, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey.
Hey, Sam. What's on your mind?
What's on my mind? First, I want to say there's a woman that called in a week ago talking about she got vaccinated and didn't decide to get boosted and didn't decide to vaccinate her 6-year-old child.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I want to say to that woman that there are other people like that, like everywhere. Everywhere you go, there'll be people like that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And it makes sense. Kids are at zero risk from COVID.
Second thing I want to say is Nobody, or Mr. Nobody. Your name is awesome.
Thank you.
You are awesome. Yeah.
We agree, by the way. I love Nobody. He is awesome. I'm so glad that he's back here on Free Talk Live. He's smiling, by the way. He's got a big smile on his face. And,
big dumb grin.
And you'd moved, I remember your call a couple weeks ago, Sam. You'd moved up here during 2020. Were you paying attention? I mean, you're really young. I think you're just 10 years old or something right now, but you seem like way more with it than a lot of kids, even in their teenage years. Were you paying attention at all to the election in 2020 when nobody ran for governor up here?
No, but I saw like somebody told me about the what's it called? The billboard or something.
The campaign signs?
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't have enough money for a billboard, but we did have some pretty cool campaign
I'm like,
signs.
geez, where did you guys have a billboard? You guys are keeping stuff from me.
Well, that said,
it's hard to hide a billboard.
I know. Like, where was this billboard?
There's actually been some talk in the New Hampshire Exit group, one of the chat rooms that we have, about buying a New Hampshire Exit billboard of some sort. So
yes.
I actually did contact one of the billboard companies. Now, you can pay a lot for a billboard, or you can pay a little bit less for a billboard, and I found one that's a little bit less. It's actually the one on top of Murphy's Tap Room in Manchester. I contacted the people that own that. It's one of those digital platforms where, you know, it switches, right? So like every 8 seconds, there's a new advertisement that comes up. It's only like, if you were to do a multi-month agreement with that, it's only $1,000 a month.
Wow.
And I don't think that that's too crazy for, you know, a inner city, you know, high traffic kind of a billboard.
All I'm thinking is, but it's Manchester. It's only got 100,000 people.
Yeah, but there's people going in and out of there all day long.
True.
I mean, people come in for business.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the big city, quote unquote, here in New Hampshire. The thing is, Sam, was there anything else you wanted to share, by the way, before we go off into billboard territory?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you guys a question.
Okay.
What is your guys' opinion on Bitcoin maximalists?
Can you define a Bitcoin maximalist?
Yeah. Person who thinks who is based and thinks Bitcoin is the only coin, no poopy coins.
Thank you for the self-censorship there. I do appreciate that. I don't know if so the term you use the term based, which is kind of the internet slang. I don't know exactly what the definition of it is. Can you define based?
Yeah. What? Non-fiat, meat-eating, anti-vax, anti-tyranny.
Yeah, so I don't know if I would define, so when you go to Urban Dictionary, for instance, and you look up based, it says it is the opposite of cringe. Based is a word that you use when you agree with something or when you want to recognize someone for being courageous or unique and not caring what others think. The opposite of cringe, sometimes the opposite of biased. In my opinion, a Bitcoin maximalist is not based. They are somebody who is, you know, they have a preference, and it is an irrational, I think, level of preference to the point where they're not even willing to consider any alternatives. They believe that Bitcoin is the one true cryptocurrency.
My response to a maximalist is the same as my response to any other monopolist, which is, you know, there is no area of the market that is best served by a monopoly, and Bitcoin itself is not able to scale to accommodate the entire market, and that's okay because it doesn't have to, because there's 1,000 other coins, and I hope that's the way it will stay.
I think I might have a different opinion on this. Okay. If it was the case that Bitcoin was actually evolving, because it's not necessarily in our interest. I mean, I think it's in our interest to have some competition. Don't get me wrong, but I don't necessarily know that I would be jumping off of Bitcoin if it had evolved, if it had, done, like it become Monero and they were working on stability and scaling and all these other problems. But the reality is they're not. It's just it's this thing where it's like, okay, they talk about Lightning Network and but they've been talking about it for years.
It's coming, man. It's coming.
There were things that they could do.
Just 3 more years.
There were
level the curve.
There were things that they could do that could have stopped it from becoming basically a useless, coin.
Yes, but they didn't do those things.
They didn't do those things in a timely and efficient manner. And I think if they had, I think things would maybe be different today. I still don't think it would be, I still don't necessarily think I would agree with a maximalist, because even if they had done that, fixed that one problem, they still probably wouldn't have fixed the privacy problem. And I think there's another use case for that, where at least I think that honestly, I think that's kind of the future, right? Like, so I don't even know.
What's the future?
Privacy.
Privacy. I hope you're right, but again, the market's not valuing that as what they want.
I don't necessarily know that the market. The problem is with the market is doing what investors want, not necessarily what is valuable to consumers. I think when you see consumers using cryptocurrencies, they're not using what the market wants anyway. So I don't know.
Henry Ford said if he'd asked consumers what they wanted, they would have said they wanted a faster horse.
That's true. Yeah, the people don't know what they want until you show it to them. Right?
Exactly.
The other thing I want to point out about the maximalists is the what it seems to me to be some pretty serious hypocrisy. On one hand, they say they value decentralization, right? Like, how can you be in favor of Bitcoin and not be in favor of the idea of decentralization, right? It's part and parcel of that.
Yeah.
But they want to only have one currency. And it's like, hello, what about decentralizing the currencies and having a bunch of options in the marketplace and competition? What's wrong with that?
It's funny because it's because of what they did that it actually demonstrates why we need competition in the marketplace.
You mean what they didn't do?
Or what they didn't do. That demonstrates why the sources were released in the first place. And obviously, I don't think I cannot imagine that Satoshi would have argued against the forking of Bitcoin at the end of the day, because
why it's open source, right?
That's why he released the code. It's the whole reason he released the code is to ensure that no matter what the people who were in control of Bitcoin did, if they didn't do what should be done and needs to be done, somebody else could.
Sam, did that answer your question? Thanks for the call, man. I do appreciate hearing from you there on the Seacoast. That's Sam. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. We got more coming up on this new committee to study, or commission, there's a difference, to study cryptocurrency here in moments. And you can join us. It is Free Talk Live.
There are basically 2 types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
When a lunar observatory detects a radio broadcast originating from Proxima Centauri, the nations of Earth discover their first contact with an alien race may also be their last. With the Proximans facing an extinction-level disaster, Earth must choose between sending a ship on a multi-year journey or allowing nature to take its course. Saving Proxima, a hard science fiction thriller by Travis S. Taylor and Les Johnson from BaneBooks.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you're helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live. You can join us. Phones are open here. You can take control of the airwaves at 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Free Talk Live is brought to you by Bitcoin.com. We're talking about cryptocurrency here a little bit tonight, and if you are new to the topic, yeah, it's 13 years, we're 13 years into this experiment, but it's still not too late. Some people would say it's still really early, as a matter of fact. Like if you think about how long gold or silver have been considered, as money, 13 years is a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
So-
and if you look at the percentage of people who hold Bitcoin, there will be a lot more, or cryptocurrency in general. Let me not sound maximalist. If you look at the number of people who hold cryptocurrency, that number is going to grow a lot.
Absolutely.
In the future, and every time it grows, the value has to rise.
Head over to Bitcoin.com, click Get Started at the top of the page. They will teach you some of the basics, and there are some new concepts that you should get your mind wrapped around, like decentralization and blockchains. They go over those things over at Bitcoin.com. Click Get Started, and then you can start the process of learning about Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash and cryptocurrency. If you're not brand new, though, and you want to get the latest news headlines, news.bitcoin.com has them every day, and they do a great job reporting on the latest from the world of cryptocurrency. And it is a deep, interesting world. So check it out at news.bitcoin.com. Chris, you were sharing a story with us about the New Hampshire governor calling for a commission to study cryptocurrency. I think they're calling it the Commission on Cryptocurrencies and Digital Assets. And this sounds familiar to me because I think all of us have gone to the previous committee that was studying cryptocurrency.
I definitely did. I went
hearings.
to more than one, I believe.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
I don't know if you did, nobody, but
I haven't been to any of those.
I'm surprised that we didn't drag you along for those.
Yeah, I'm a little shocked too.
But maybe those were the years you weren't living in Keene. That might have been.
Maybe you just don't remember.
Maybe I don't.
You sometimes forget about some of this stuff that we do. I mean, there's so much activism you're involved in.
It's true.
We have done many an appearance at the State House, so it wouldn't surprise me if it all.
I'm actually surprised when I bring something up that you don't remember, Ian. Some piece of activism. I'm like, yeah, you were there. I know for sure.
So they're doing it again.
Yeah.
They're doing more studies apparently about cryptocurrency, and that's one of the things that's happening. By the way, this year is there's a particular Free Stater who's a state representative, Keith Ammon. He's a good guy, great state representative, cares about liberty, and he's really into cryptocurrency, and he's sponsored a few bills this year that are going to try to make New Hampshire as free as Wyoming as far as being a good place for businesses to come to who are crypto businesses and make it welcoming to them.
Yeah,
basically.
I'm still not sure I fully wrap my head around what Wyoming did that made it freer than New Hampshire.
There's a whole suite of legislation that basically paves the way, and I don't have off the top of my head what those things are, but essentially he took those pieces of legislation and introduced them all in this legislative session. They haven't been voted on by the full House yet, but I did see some of the voting results.
So we should there should be a committee hearing at some point on some of these, and
there was a hearing that already happened a few weeks ago. So now the committees are voting on it. I think one of them got voted down, ITL, which is an expedient to legislate. But again, that doesn't mean it won't pass the full House. Just probably means it won't pass.
Yeah.
The other one I think got sent off to a study committee, I think. So we'll see. And I guess this committee by the governor is going to help these state reps and state senators to have a better grasp for why Wyoming's better than New Hampshire. New Hampshire's one of the better states.
It is.
It's probably the top 5 as far as crypto, maybe even number 2, I don't know, as far as the crypto friendliness, but Wyoming's got it by a mile. That's why companies like Kraken moved their entire operation to Wyoming.
I think if I'm not mistaken,
and Kraken's a big crypto exchange. Sorry.
I like I said, I don't fully understand what it is Wyoming did, but I think if I recall correctly, had something to do with banks. Like
yes, it's called a special depository something institution.
Yeah, so it was very like we don't have regulation here, but the banks are still regulated, and so somehow if you want to interact with
it's a special carve-out, a special type of bank that essentially a cryptocurrency exchange could open, and they have.
And I think
in Wyoming,
if I recall correctly, the legislation that we got passed may have only been applicable to businesses that deal with like selling cryptocurrency or something of that nature. So it might be that there's some other piece of legislation that we do need. I just don't fully understand like what exactly.
Yeah. So the way Keith explained it to me, I was in the State House the day the hearings were happening, but I wasn't able to attend them. But I did stop him in the hallway and I talked to him a little bit. And the way he explained it was, as you pointed out, Chris, what happened previously in New Hampshire was there was this piece of legislation that got passed that inadvertently started to regulate crypto a little bit in New Hampshire, and then we undid that. So the original commission to study cryptocurrency said, oh, we shouldn't have done this. And they recommended to the State House that we undo it, and so the State House undid that. And so basically there's not any kind of regulatory controls on cryptocurrency here, as I understand it.
Right.
So you would think, oh, great, that's the way it should be.
Right, so then what's the problem? Like, what do we need more legislation
for? What he explains is, whether we like it or not as libertarians, corporations want to have some sort of a structure that they can go and do a thing in, right?
Yeah.
So like the special depository institution is like a special carve out in the banking system that allows a cryptocurrency company to create their own bank, basically. That's my understanding of it. I'm sure it's more complex than that.
One of the fears I have, though, is that if you do this, does that mean anybody who doesn't follow, operate within that structure, are they now committing a crime?
I don't know. I haven't read the legislation.
Yeah,
so
I mean, this is something I'm not sure if this is something I want to support.
I mean, if you create a bank, you're going to get targeted, right? Like if you open up Chris's bank and you've got a vault in your house and you call it a bank, they're going to come after you, right? There's banking regulations that already prohibit that.
I don't think they're calling it a bank in Wyoming. They're calling it a depository or something like that anyway. So
yeah, but it's basically they're a bank, and they can do the things that banks do or whatever. Okay. But yeah, if you try to be a bank, and they're going to come after you for that if you don't jump through the hoops, basically. So banking is highly regulated, and this just basically allows things to happen that otherwise companies are just too afraid to do. On their own.
I don't know. I just feel like if they're going to do something, it should just exempt as opposed to create a structure for, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I don't disagree with what you're saying.
If they've already got a structure for banks,
but it's not a bank.
Well, it basically is a bank, as I understand it.
Yeah,
under the current law, you mean?
Structure for banks, then it could well be that they have to add hooks to that structure so that.
Why can't we just exempt them from that legislation?
Well, because banking is highly regulated. I don't think you could just say, okay, well, now you can be a bank without being a bank, and we're just going to leave you alone. Unfortunately, the Banking Commission, their goal is to regulate. And so I would love to see them abolish the Banking Commission, Chris, but that's not, no one's proposing that. I feel like we did this
for cryptocurrency businesses when we removed the authority of the banking New Hampshire Banking Department, or whatever they call it, from regulating cryptocurrency. Like, I feel like we could do the same thing just for, repositories.
I don't know if I can explain.
It would be interesting if to have you read the legislation and advance an opinion about it.
Yeah.
I think I did read some of the Wyoming legislation, but it's very, very
it's complicated, I'm sure.
It's banking terms that your average person's not going to understand. And I already understand some of those terms.
Yeah, your average person isn't the target of this legislation. It's corporations who want to do certain things, and as you know, corporations are creatures of the state, and they only want to follow the rules. So they need rules to follow, is essentially what he had told me. And this is a pretty libertarian guy. More coming up. Free Talk Live's video archives have been on LBRY for years. LBRY is an uncensorable, decentralized, blockchain-based media sharing protocol, and we're big fans of it here on Free Talk Live. In 2020, LBRY launched Odysee, a video sharing website to compete with YouTube, and it's really taking off, now with over 1 million channels, many of whom are disaffected YouTube creators. During YouTube's crackdown for not towing the government line on COVID, the Free Talk Live YouTube channel started receiving strikes and could be completely taken down at any moment. Thankfully, Odysee started offering live streaming, so we're now streaming live every night and posting our video archives permanently to Odysee. You can watch live or anytime on our Odysee channel by visiting video.freetalklive.com. If you want to go all in, download the desktop app at lbry.com, and then every video archive you watch, you'll help seed and keep it online forever. At minimum, we ask you visit video.freetalklive.com and follow us on Odysee today. video.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks.
Russia could choose in very short order to commence a major military action against Ukraine.
U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan warning that the Russians have now arrayed sufficient forces on the country's border with Ukraine and in neighboring Belarus that the likelihood of an invasion is growing. He indicated U.S. intelligence reports suggest an invasion would begin with aerial bombardments of the country, cyber warfare, and then a substantial ground offensive. And he indicated the government in Kiev may not survive.
There are very real possibilities that it will involve the seizure of a significant amount of territory in Ukraine and the seizure of major cities, including the capital city.
He denied reports suggesting President Biden has told NATO allies that the U.S. now believes President Putin has taken a final decision to invade. He said he had seen no intelligence to support those claims, but he issued a plea to American citizens in Ukraine to leave now, saying there would be no U.S. military rescue operation after any Russian attack begins.
We obviously cannot predict the future. We don't know exactly what is going to happen. But the risk is now high enough, and the threat is now immediate enough, that this is what prudence demands. If you stay, you are assuming risk, with no guarantee that there will be any other opportunity to leave, and no prospect of a U.S. military evacuation in the event of a Russian invasion.
President Biden is spending the weekend at Camp David, talking to his national security team and awaiting a response from Moscow. Mr. Sullivan said the president is willing to talk to President Putin. European governments are ordering their citizens to evacuate Ukraine. The Pentagon is sending 3,000 more troops from the 82nd Airborne to Poland. Earlier today, Russia's defense minister pledged in talks with his British counterpart that there are no invasion plans. But it is apparent that in Washington, that promise is simply no longer believed. In other news today, the Biden administration is urging the Canadian government to resolve trucker protests that are now disrupting travel and trade along the US-Canadian border. From FSN's Washington bureau, Caroline Malone with that story.
Groups of truckers have blocked the Ambassador Bridge connecting Ontario to Detroit for 4 straight days. They're calling themselves the Freedom Convoy against vaccine mandates and other COVID-19 restrictions. The Transport Link is the busiest US-Canada border crossing, which accounts for at least 25% of all trade between the two nations. There's already been a big impact on car manufacturing, with some plants halting production while they wait for parts. Authorities in the United States are also concerned that similar protests could block major US cities. Caroline Malone, Washington.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FS.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live, and you can bring up what you want here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. We're talking a little bit about the confusing world of government regulations when it comes to cryptocurrency businesses and how to attract them into a political jurisdiction. And I mean, I'm with you, Chris, that to me, what's attractive would be no regulations whatsoever. But unfortunately, the Liberty reps that we have, and, you know, God bless what they do. They do amazing work considering the circumstances that they're in, which is to say they're in the minority, right? Like we might be at the very least 1/10 of the state house with approximately 40-some state reps that are free staters. There's probably a few dozen more that are pretty friendly to freedom. So maybe if you really push it, you could say we're a quarter of the state house that are relatively pro-freedom, but still that's not a majority.
Absolutely
so
not.
You're not seeing any proposals to abolish the banking commission, which would be the ideal thing for a libertarian, to do.
But we're going to need some more movers for that.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Exactly.
Definitely need a few more movers. And don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting that this legislation is going to be bad for freedom. I suspect it probably will be beneficial. It's just not. Yeah, it's just like, I don't know if I like it. It's not going far enough.
The problem is if there's a closed set of things that certain types of company can do, then you need legislation to open that set of things, to add another thing to that set. And I think that's the situation that we've got now.
Yeah, I'm looking over the bill in question regarding these special depository institutions, special purpose depository institutions. And basically, they do banking kind of things without being called a bank. They can be applied.
I mean, wouldn't that be a money transmitter, though?
I'm sure they'll be considered a money transmitter, but that's a whole separate question. They can do banking-related things except for lending. They can't have natural persons as their customers. Only corporations can be their customers, apparently. And they can apply to the Federal Reserve to be a member bank, so that would give them the ability to receive wire transfers and send wire transfers and things like that. But there was a story from the senator of Wyoming, or one of the senators from Wyoming, Cynthia Lummis, who is kind of like the crypto senator, basically, in the U.S. government. She wrote an article about how the Federal Reserve is refusing to process the applications.
I saw this.
By Kraken, and there's another one. There's another crypto company, Avanti, I think is what it's called.
I don't recall the companies,
but these two that have created the special purpose depository institutions in Wyoming are trying to get their Federal Reserve numbers or whatever so they can, send wire transfers and all that, and they're just. The Fed has not moved on their applications. It's been a year, and apparently there's supposedly a legal obligation, quote unquote, for the Fed to process any application within a year. So they're purposefully not doing. They're snubbing the crypto businesses.
I wonder if it would have been any different if Wyoming had created a state institution that would handle all wire transfers on behalf of banks in
like
the
a state bank, you mean?
Yeah, and because then they wouldn't be able to.
I don't like the sound of that.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. It would. I mean, I guess they could still probably block a transfer. The feds could still block a particular transfer, but the less information they have to do so, the harder it would be for them to do so. Right? If everything had to go through a central state institution first in order to get to the federal system, right? I don't know.
Well, they couldn't cut off the crypto banks then without cutting off all of Wyoming.
Right, and that's the whole. That's the whole point. It makes them. It prevents them from basically punishing crypto or institutions that deal with crypto. Whereas right now it's very easy because you have to apply still to the federal bank as an individual institution within Wyoming.
All right, let's go to your calls and thoughts, and we can continue with whatever's on your mind. Sarah is on the line in New Mexico. You're on Free Talk Live. Go ahead, Sarah.
Oh, yes. I just wanted to bring up that, the marketing network that I'm involved in is that, it's very environmental. And it saves plastic.
Sarah, I thought you weren't a distributor of that network marketing program that you've called about before. I thought you were just a customer.
Well, the thing is, I'm just a customer, but I help Richard. Richard is signed up, so I'm trying to get people signed up with him. So,
gotcha.
And then he...
Because if you sponsor three and they sponsor three and they sponsor three, then you'll make $1 million, right?
Well, I don't know about $1 million.
You'll be a diamond distributor. They'll give you like a boat and a house and a car and a vacation.
How does this fit in with the communism?
Oh, wow.
Do you want to create a capitalist exploiter of the people?
Well, the thing is, I'm in a capitalist country, and that's the model that I have.
So when in Rome...
Well, the thing is that the products are very concentrated, so it saves on fossil fuel and gasoline because it takes a lot more fuel to haul water, and you can put it in a small plastic bottle. You save plastic.
Is this Amway?
No, that is not Amway. So,
are you trying to sell us? Are you trying to sell us on water? On like plastic water?
No, she's trying to
bottles?
sell you on their concentrated solutions because it's more efficient.
Water.
Concentrated water?
No. She's got potions, right? She's got potions and she's got chemicals and soaps or whatever the hell it is.
Okay.
Oils, essential oil. She's got all kinds of stuff that she wants to put to
Sarah, aren't you on like welfare, like social housing or something like that?
She moved out of the welfare house.
Oh, she did.
She did used to live in a welfare house, but she doesn't now.
Okay, well that's a step up then.
Yeah.
Well, I get SSI, so I get about $800 a month.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a disability. I have bipolar, but so I cannot make money, but Richard could make money. I just help him out. So, what I'm saying is that
I still don't buy your claim that you cannot make money, Sarah. It seems to me like you're trying pretty hard here to, earn a little bit of income to bring in some bacon.
Yeah,
so to speak.
I mean, I want to say something about people with bipolar for just a moment. I've had employees that were bipolar, and I will say that.
And you fired them all.
I didn't fire them. I didn't actually. They left on their own, but. Okay. I will say that I don't think it's impossible for somebody with bipolar to make money.
Yeah.
The problem is that they can be unreliable, I think is the best way to phrase it. Because if you're going from having one mood to another mood, you might not show up for work. And that's something that's usually desirable in an employee. But that doesn't necessarily mean that somebody with bipolar can't make money. It just means they can't as easily work for maybe another
person,
individual, or another company. They may need to go into work for themselves and have more leeway with the work that they perform.
But they can do things.
Right.
She's acting like she can't do anything. What's that, Sarah?
And the bipolar people are very, very unpredictable. But, this is not, I'm not making money off of this. I'm just helping Richard. He's the one that's making money.
Is he making money?
I mean, the thing is, I'm not making any money because
How long has he been a distributor?
Well, actually, he's been involved in it for about a year and 3 months.
Okay, and what level is he?
Well, the thing is that we're just customers, and we have 4 people under us.
4 people?
So
okay.
Well, no, those are not the one that we signed up. It's the people that we have about 30 spots that we could have.
Hold on. How did the 4 people get under you if you didn't sign them up?
Oh man.
Well, the thing is that you could have people that signed you up the upline.
Yeah.
They could put people like about 30 spots under your line.
Oh, I see. So he's getting the uplines doing the work, and they're stacking people under him. That's pretty sweet. So he doesn't even have to do all the work to get people underneath him. Well, good luck with your potions, Sarah. Appreciate it. The number 603-283-6160. Maybe she'll be kicking it on the island after they get the free cruise from their diamond distributorship someday.
Oh, man.
You can bring up whatever you want. The number here is 603-283-6160. This is Free Talk Live.
Email is easy, instant, and free, and that can be real embarrassing. Email lacks the eye contact and body language you get in face-to-face conversation, or the tone of voice and other nuance you hear in a telephone conversation. Email is just words, often few words. We're all smothering in spam, so we often reply in terse fashion that's easy to misunderstand. And email doesn't cost you a postage stamp, and it lacks the deliberation time it'd take to walk to the snail mail box. So it's easy to succumb to the "oh yeah" stimulus response trap. When in doubt, don't snap back at snippy messages you get. You may have mistaken the sender's intent. And unless you're sending AOL to AOL, there's no unsend. For more tips on critical communication skills for the way things are now, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live.
You know, you got to give those guys credit, though. Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, they've established this for themselves. And who are the Hispanic leaders? Who are the Chinese leaders? It's a brilliant marketing plan on their part to get them radio interviews and all kinds of appearances and sell books for them. But otherwise, that's really all it is for them.
Right, and then when you call them out, exactly what you said. If you are a black person, you are supposed to get upset when they tell you to get upset. Me and a lot of other people who are black, we've grown up. I'm 55 going on 56. I don't see color. I see people. I see behavior. I see morals. I see values. I don't see the color of a person's skin. That does not dictate how I should interact with that person. Their behavior, their morals and values dictate how I interact with them.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live, phones open. If you want to join the show, you can. The number here is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. We're talking about cryptocurrency and politicians acting like they're being friendly to it or open-minded about cryptocurrency, but are they really?
Yeah, doubt it.
There's actually news about the so-called pro-crypto mayor of New York City that we can get into coming up here in a moment. But with you tonight, it is Ian.
Nobody.
And Chris.
And what we've been discussing here has been that the news is that in our very own New Hampshire, which is fairly crypto-friendly as far as things go. There aren't specific prohibitions here like there are in New York, for instance, where there's something
New York City.
Yeah, there's, well, in this case, all of New York State, where there's the so-called BIT license that they put into place back in 2015, if I recall correctly, that has made New York the least friendly state for cryptocurrency businesses. New Hampshire has been pretty hands-off when it comes to crypto, but the state of Wyoming has passed certain legislation that has sort of paved the way for crypto businesses.
Sweeten the deal.
Yeah,
in theory.
Yeah, to feel more comfortable coming there. And so we've seen a major crypto exchange called Kraken migrate their business over to Wyoming, and they've started one of these sort of banks, but not banks, special purpose depository institutions there. And so here in New Hampshire, the New Hampshire legislators that are into crypto, a lot of them are free staters, have put forward 3 pieces of legislation this year. One of them's about the special depository institutions, and there's a couple of others that have to do with crypto. So we'll see how those pan out. But meanwhile, Chris, you had a story about the governor here in New Hampshire has called for another commission to be formed to study cryptocurrency. And this is after there was already a commission, like in 2016, I think, that they formed to study cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
That you and I have, Chris, testified in front of in the past. That footage, by the way, is over at the Free Keen YouTube channel. So if you're interested in watching boring commission footage, you can do that.
Honestly, I honestly didn't think it was that boring.
Well, it's because you're interested in the topic, I guess.
That's true. That's true. But I mean, as far as like
some of the state reps have a tough time staying awake in their own committees. So
yes,
by definition, they're pretty dull.
I think as far as like committee hearings or whatever that you're going to go to and listen to and find interesting, I felt like that was actually kind of interesting. I've spoken at a lot of other hearings, and a lot of times it's really, really boring stuff.
No doubt.
This one was kind of interesting, I think, especially at the time, because like, oh, I find out my reps are already using crypto. They have wallets. Like at the time, that was amazing. Like I didn't know any of the representatives had crypto wallets or Bitcoin wallets or whatever it was that they had.
Yeah, there's actually quite a few of them that do.
Yeah, and I didn't know that.
Excluding just the free staters who are obviously already into it. But there's even some others that are into crypto.
Right, and that I thought that alone was made that hearing very interesting to go and hear.
Indeed.
And then there were reps that were actually in favor, like speaking in favor of it. Like I don't know, but if there's I mean, look, I get that like most bills don't go down like that, but that bill not only well, at least one of them went down positively. The reps were even speaking at the committee hearing in favor of it, as well as it didn't get ITL'd. It actually went to I think it said something about what's the other one? Something ought to pass. Yeah. So I think it actually got
ITL
voted.
stands for inexpedient to legislate.
Yeah, I believe if I'm not mistaken, that one got voted ought to pass, and then it actually passed. So
well, the commission just makes recommendations. It doesn't vote on like whether the bill should move forward or whatever. But they basically will tell the other committees, okay, here's what we think.
Yep.
And then they take that under advisement and make their decision based on that. One of my favorite moments, I think, from the original commission on studying cryptocurrency was when there was like one of the banking bureaucrats was sitting there testifying. I think it was the head of the commission asked the question of, and I'm paraphrasing, but it was something to the effect of, well, have there been any complaints? Because they were talking about like all the bad things that could happen. Right? Oh, these bad things with cryptocurrency. We need to regulate and blah, blah, blah. Because, of course, the regulators want to regulate, right? Mm-hmm. And the guy said, well, have there been any complaints about cryptocurrency? And she had to answer, there had not been a single complaint in however many years.
Right, because her job, like their job is to take complaints from the
public.
public.
About banks and stuff.
Right, about banks and stuff.
Investments or whatever.
Right, and there was not a single complaint.
Nope.
And here she was testifying against the
that
bill.
One question just like completely took all the wind out of their sails, and you could tell it was over.
It really did.
With that one question.
Yeah.
So... And and the guy that asked that question isn't a free stater. He's just like one of the Republican state reps.
I was going to say he's just one of the Republicans. Yeah, I was going to say he's just a Republican, as I understood it.
He happens to be the head of the Commerce Committee, so he does hear a lot of business-related bills and that sort of thing.
I actually have a picture of this guy in my mind because I was just so shocked that like your just random rep would actually like say something positive or ask a question that was. Yeah, it was just that was an amazing. That was some of those were amazing hearings. I thought. I don't think I've been to any other hearing that was as interesting as that, other than maybe the New Hampshire independence hearing. But that didn't go anywhere. I mean, that didn't go. I mean, well, I don't want to say it hasn't gone anywhere.
We didn't get what we wanted out of it.
Yeah, we didn't get an ought to pass. We got but it was also not unexpected. So.
What else can you share about this news?
So Governor Sununu.
If at first you don't secede.
I think it's interesting what Sununu had to say about this. Governor Sununu cited the rising use and acceptance of crypto as well as the growth of distributed ledger and blockchain technologies in his decision to establish the commission. Kind of what we've been saying for the last, half a decade, right? According to the executive order, the Crypto Commission will have 180 days until August 8th to submit a report to officials within the New Hampshire state government consisting of a review and investigation regarding the current status of the cryptocurrency and digital asset industry. It's such an interesting choice of words too, like a digital asset industry. Like I don't think of it as an industry. I think it's cryptocurrency, right? Like
it's a huge industry. What are you talking about?
But I don't.
It's a $2 trillion industry.
Sure, but I don't think of it as like an industry in the same sense that I think of like the steelmaking industry.
Well, yeah, they don't have a manufacturing facility.
Right.
Well, they do. That's kind of what the miners are.
Yeah, but there's not like a physical place where people come to work per se. I mean, there are.
Each miner does have a place where he has his machines.
Yeah, it's a different thing to visualize.
Kind of, but it's not.
That's what he's saying.
Yeah, it's definitely it's definitely different. I mean, I don't know if we're putting into good words.
They
or
have
choice of words, but
decentralized organizations. We were talking about this the other night. Decentralized autonomous organizations is sort of like the new buzzword in the world of cryptocurrency, and I shouldn't say just buzzword. It's a real thing. I mean, they're organizations that exist now that do not have a CEO. They do not have a board of directors. They may have thousands of directors, people who have purchased basically stock, the equivalent of that, like these tokens. They buy these tokens, and that gives them voting power in this organization. They can make proposals about what the organization should do, and then the rest of the people can vote on those proposals. And the thing is, there's no CEO or board to go and target with like a police raid. Yeah. There's no centralized bank account to shut down. They are completely untouchable.
It is interesting though, because you may have trouble actually opening a bank account if you want to interface with the real world. Because
but they don't care.
Yeah, I mean, sure. If you could somehow manage to propagate money through the traditional system,
they're doing decentralized finance, they don't need to propagate through the traditional system.
Sure. I don't know what it is these decentralized organizations, are. I mean, obviously, they're not one thing.
They do a ton of different things.
Sure. But
one of them runs Shapeshift now, which used to be a centralized company.
Probably
Shapeshift was a centralized corporation that in the summer of 2021, Eric Voorhees, who's a Free Stater, by the way. Shapeshift was one of the first companies to allow people to take one type of crypto and send it to them, and then they send back a different type of crypto. Mm-hmm. They became regulated because they were a centralized corporation, and Eric, I don't think, ever wanted that, but that's ultimately what he had to do until now, where they figured out, we can run this thing differently. And they decentralized the entire corporation. They're in the process of closing the offices, firing all the employees, and giving the employees a bunch of these tokens that they have called the Fox token. And so everybody that worked for Shapeshift can still work for Shapeshift. It's just there's not some bookkeeper somewhere who's cutting them a paycheck at the end of the day.
Right.
And now anybody else who had the Fox token can vote on the things that Shapeshift does. So they've transitioned. I don't know if it's complete 100%, but they're almost there to have gotten rid of the old artifice of corporation.
It's certainly interesting. I don't know if it can completely, at this point, replace a traditional corporation, but I certainly, or at least not every corporation, but I certainly think it's
not the ones that need a physical manufacturing plant.
Right, exactly. Right? How do you make that work, right?
There's more coming up.
And it's mostly because of the legal system that we have that problem.
Yeah, that's true. There's more on the way here. You can share your thoughts. Hour number 3 is coming up. This is Free Talk Live. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to mymagicmud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. mymagicmud.com, FTL20.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks.
Russia could choose in very short order to commence a major military action against Ukraine.
U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan warning that the Russians have now arrayed sufficient forces on the country's border with Ukraine and in neighboring Belarus that the likelihood of an invasion is growing. He indicated U.S. intelligence reports suggest an invasion would begin with aerial bombardments of the country, cyber warfare, and then a substantial ground offensive. And he indicated the government in Kiev may not survive.
There are very real possibilities that it will involve the seizure of a significant amount of territory in Ukraine and the seizure of major cities, including the capital city.
He denied reports suggesting President Biden has told NATO allies that the US now believes President Putin has taken a final decision to invade. He said he had seen no intelligence to support those claims, but he issued a plea to American citizens in Ukraine to leave now, saying there would be no US military rescue operation after any Russian attack begins.
We obviously cannot predict the future. We don't know exactly what is going to happen, but the risk is now high enough and the threat is now immediate enough that this is what prudence demands. If you stay, you are assuming risk with no guarantee that there will be any other opportunity to leave and no prospect of a U.S. military evacuation in the event of a Russian invasion.
President Biden is spending the weekend at Camp David, talking to his national security team and awaiting a response from Moscow. Mr. Sullivan said the president is willing to talk to President Putin. European governments are ordering their citizens to evacuate Ukraine. The Pentagon is sending 3,000 more troops to Poland. Earlier today, Russia's defense minister pledged in talks with his British counterpart that there are no invasion plans. But it is apparent that in Washington, that promise is simply no longer believed. In other news today, the Biden administration is urging the Canadian government to resolve trucker protests that are now disrupting travel and trade along the US-Canadian border. From FSN's Washington bureau, Caroline Malone with that story.
Groups of truckers have blocked the Ambassador Bridge connecting Ontario to Detroit for 4 straight days. They're calling themselves the Freedom Convoy against vaccine mandates and other COVID-19 restrictions. The Transport Link is the busiest US-Canada border crossing, which accounts for at least 25% of all trade between the two nations. There's already been a big impact on car manufacturing, with some plants halting production while they wait for parts. Authorities in the United States are also concerned that similar protests could block major US cities. Caroline Malone, Washington.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, at length, a clarion warning about the dangers facing global democracy. It came yesterday from former British Prime Minister Sir John Major speaking at the Institute for Government.
In each of the last 15 years, democracy has shrunk a little as political and civil liberties have been diminished. In many countries, democracy has never taken root. Where it has, it risks being weakened by populism, often with added xenophobia, or muzzled by elected autocracy. It's challenged by protest groups or new and more extreme political movements. Even our great allies in the United States are facing populist attacks on their democracy. Now, good government, by which I mean democratic government, has a duty to deliver unwelcome messages to electors. That isn't easy. Isn't easy in a world in which politicians are under continuous scrutiny from an uncontrolled internet, a 24-hour media, and an increasing number of impatient special interest groups. The hard truth is, while government can do much, it can't do everything. All problems can't be swiftly and painlessly resolved on demand. It is literally an impossible task. If politicians admit that, they earn trust and respect.
Sir John Major with a critique not just of recent developments in Britain, but a warning of the dangers to democracy everywhere else. The main news again, the US government is warning that the Russians have now arrayed enough forces on the country's border with Ukraine and in Belarus to launch an invasion that could overthrow the government in Kiev. And they're urging American citizens in Ukraine to leave the country within the next 48 hours. One other headline, the Biden administration is urging the government in Canada to resolve trucker protests that are now disrupting travel and trade along the border with the United States. And that is the latest feature story news. Simon Marks reporting.
So, Shelby, let's start with you. You say that our bogs and marshes should actually be paved over.
That's right. Absolutely, Brooke. These things are nothing but dead body dumping pits that make life easy for murderers. And it's disgusting to me that sickos like Mr. Popkin actually want to protect these things.
All right. Well, Mr. Popkin, how do you respond to this?
Bogs and marshes are important ecosystems that should be protected. I mean, they're already being endangered.
Whoa, excuse me. As long as these human landfills remain open for business, what we're essentially saying to the criminal element is, sure, do whatever you like, and throw the evidence here in this federally protected black hole.
I testified before Senator Chuck Grassley, who wanted to lift federal protection on these lands, and what I told him is exactly what I'm going to tell you now.
And where is Chuck Grassley right now, sir? Could it be that he's sitting at the bottom of a bog somewhere? Why else would you be so hot on these wetlands if you aren't a murderer yourself?
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live. It's Free Talk Live, and you can bring up whatever you want. The number here is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Will New Hampshire rise to the top as far as the best states, or as far as the list of the best states to run a cryptocurrency-related business? It's definitely in the top echelon. I don't know how you rank these things exactly, but I think most people in the crypto world think Wyoming is the best at the moment, and that's because they've passed a sort of a suite of legislation that do things like authorize bankers to hold cryptocurrency. Because it's one of the reasons why banks won't hold cryptocurrencies, because they are definitely afraid of having the government punish them for doing so.
I think one of the things that people have to understand about some of this stuff that they're talking about is it's effectively illegal for somebody to hold somebody else's money for them. Or maybe it may be something like multiple different other people's money. So like you can't
unless authorized by the state. You mean
unless you like get a banking charter from the state or something like that. You can't just be like, oh hey, give me I can't hold your money in and nobody's money and somebody else's money and put it into my bank account.
Yeah, we actually
that's a crime.
Right, we actually had a host of the show years ago. His name was Wayne. And he knew a dude who tried this, like out in California, opened up what was called a warehouse bank. And they raided his ass over that. So even though people were voluntarily using his services, he had like a really nice safe or something like that, and was willing to take deposits from people. They came in and they stole all of his stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. And the interesting thing is, there may be ways to legally do it, except that you can't be. It's got to be like a safe system. So each person has to have their own safe deposit box, and then it potentially becomes legal. But that doesn't necessarily mean the feds won't raid you over it.
Yeah,
right?
Did you hear about that happening to the deposit box place out in
out in California, Hollywood.
California, right?
I believe it was Hollywood.
Yeah, they were doing exactly that. And where customers were the only ones that had access to it, and they didn't even know necessarily what was in there, but they went in. The feds took everything.
Yeah, and the lawyers are saying that the feds were in the wrong on it, and yet they did it anyway.
You got to fight them.
And the judge even said that you can't. I forget what the judge said exactly, but it was like the judge said when you raid, you can't touch the assets like in the safe deposit box. You can take the safe the structure.
Oh, really?
But you can't take what's in the safety
what are they
going
to do? Take the box and leave everything else sitting on the street?
I'm not quite sure. However, they did open the boxes
and took everything.
And inventoried it all. So they violated, and the judge was, I think, angry about the fact that they violated his order.
Yeah, but did he order him to give everything back?
Well,
not yet, right?
They're not obeying the judge's order, and I don't know, and the problem is, it's like, well, what does the judge, what can the judge do when the government violates it, the judge's order? And in theory, I guess the judge can, throw a government agent in a cage.
Yeah,
but,
how often does that happen?
That would be fun to watch.
What does the government do? The government will then respond in appeal to a higher court judge.
That's right.
And then, what's the chance of that judge agreeing? And it's a mess. The whole system is a mess.
Yeah, it's awful. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had that story weeks and weeks ago, and it was one of the myriad of stories we just never really got into. But yeah, that happened. And, even if those people end up getting their stuff back, how many years is it going to take?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe you needed what was in that box for some reason. Well, now it's in the federal government's possession.
It's interesting because a lot of those people, it was their life savings, or it was, their inheritance, or it was, the money that they needed to pay rent, even in some cases.
Whatever it was.
So there were people who actually got kicked out on the street as a result of their money being stolen, from by the feds.
Because the feds were trying to protect them.
from drug dealers or something.
Yeah, right? I mean, basically that was their argument was, well, some of these people were committing crimes. The problem is that when they were actually like confronted with that in court, they couldn't actually explain what crimes were committed
or who it was,
or the individual people's whose stuff that they stole and violated the the judge's decision over. So it's pretty crazy, the stuff that they do.
So we've been talking about this story here from New Hampshire about a commission studying cryptocurrency, and there's not really a whole lot of news here, but yet we've managed to talk about various different aspects of this for much of an hour.
Honestly, I think we pretty much covered what it was in this bill.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, the governor is saying, and he's trying to win points, right? Like he's trying to win brownie points here. Oh, I'm being friendly with the crypto business, and look at what I'm doing. And it's
try to forget about the masks and the people I had arrested at my house,
and the mandates and the crackdown. Yeah. So we're going to keep an eye on this. You better believe we're going to be attending these hearings. I've already asked Keith Ammon, who is, again, one of the Free Stater, crypto-friendly Free Stater state reps, who, by the way, was appointed already to this committee.
Oh, nice.
So Keith Ammon is on this committee. And it'll be interesting to see who else they appoint to this, because the makeup of it is different than the last one.
Okay.
So this one is going to have more like members of the public, quote unquote, the average people are going to be in on this, like presumably people that know about crypto, not just like Joe Blow on the street.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like we had a really good makeup as far as the committee last time.
Well, but last time there was only one person who was just a normal, not bureaucrat, not politician, and that was Jeremy Kauffman, the founder of LBRY and Odysee. Now, we talk a lot about Odysee here on Free Talk Live. That's where we do streaming video every night, where we have never been censored and will likely never be censored. And LBRY itself, which is what Odysee was built on originally, LBRY is a protocol, not a platform. LBRY is a media sharing, blockchain-based media sharing protocol. And we've been posting our video archives on LBRY for years now. So you can go to video.freetalklive.com. That takes you over to our Odysee channel. Anyway, it was Jeremy Kauffman who was the one person that was on that committee or that commission before. But now they're going to be able to have, I think, as many as 6. So this is going to be a larger commission than it was previously. So it'll be interesting to see who gets chosen for this.
Yeah,
and,
it'll definitely be interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah, and what the makeup of it ends up looking like. So we'll keep you in the loop as that develops. But in related news, did you guys hear this New York City mayor, the new guy, the guy that just took office in January, talk about how he loves cryptocurrency?
I did. There's been a bunch of them. I think one is in Florida too.
Yeah. Miami.
Yeah, and there might be another one somewhere out there.
There's
too.
a few of them.
There's definitely like 3 or 4 of them.
So this guy made some headlines while he was running for mayor. So he's brand new, just came in January, and he made headlines because he claims he's into Bitcoin. He wants to get paid in Bitcoin. I guess he said he was getting his first few paychecks. He would get them in Bitcoin or something like that. And he made a statement about how he wants New York City to be the best Bitcoin city, to be the most attractive to Bitcoin businesses, and blah,
Better
blah,
get
blah.
rid of the bit license.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there is that. And unfortunately, that's at the state level, so he can't get rid of it.
Right.
But yeah, that's a major factor in that's going to keep businesses out of New York City. But here's another one. New York City Mayor Eric Adams, according to the New York Post, wants to make the Big Apple a center of cryptocurrency trading, but he now says he's siding with environmentalists who oppose the energy-intensive process of mining the digital currencies. Wow. Quote, "I support cryptocurrency, not crypto mining," he said.
I don't think this guy understands what cryptocurrency is.
No.
Although there are definitely cryptocurrencies that don't use the same kind of mining and are not as energy intensive.
This is true.
Things like
proof of
Stellar.
Stake. Yeah. Proof of stake versus proof of work.
Yeah. Basically, they use some variant of the different solutions to the Byzantine general problem.
We'll give him the benefit of the doubt that he actually understood the difference between proof of work and proof of stake, and it isn't that he was leading us on by making us think that he was talking about
just pandering
stable coins. No, I was thinking he was talking about stable coins. He supports stable coins, not cryptocurrencies. is what he's basically saying, but not really understanding.
He was talking about Bitcoin before, like in cryptocurrency.
Right, but now he's saying he doesn't support Bitcoin.
Correct. Yeah, because you cannot support Bitcoin and be against the mining of it.
I was thinking that what he meant then by that is he only supports stable coins. But then I was completely forgetting about the fact that there's stable. There's
and these are politicians. I mean, Biden says he wants low gas prices, but he also wants to outlaw drilling for gas, which is pretty much the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and Biden, just listening to Biden ramble about inflation is just so hard to handle.
God.
There's more coming up here in moments.
Inflation's
you can share your
good for us, Ian.
This is free. It's good for the government. It's Free Talk Live.
There are basically two types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Brute force, intransigent defiance, adamantine will. These are the hallmarks of the AI tank. These gigantic machines have the firepower of an army, but they also have their own sense of honor and duty. When the world breakers arrive, battle will be joined, planets will shake, and war and peace will never be the same again. World Breakers. Stories from David Weber, Larry Correia, and more. Available August 3rd from BaneBooks.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in Liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com. Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at Bitcoin.com. That's Bitcoin.com.
Hi, I'm Derek J. I don't want a politician to represent me. To me, government is the idea that one group of people can coerce everyone to comply with an edict or face increasing punishments up to and including death. Despite perhaps the most noble of intentions, the best government services are a far cry from what could be provided for by voluntary interactions. Besides, the people who call themselves the government wage wars and put peaceful people in jail for crimes involving no victims. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. You're invited if you want to join the show. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. We've been telling you about how Intercoin can help any business and organization launch their own currency or raise money using their own token. And now Intercoin has launched its investor token worldwide, and for the first time, you can get it on a centralized exchange called xmarkets.com. That's exmarkets.com. All you need is an email address to sign up, and you can keep your privacy intact. You can deposit dozens of different cryptos, including Bitcoin, trade them for Tether, and then use that Tether to buy ITR, which is the Intercoin Investor Token. You can learn more about the Intercoin vision at intercoin.org and buy or sell ITR on xmarkets.com, exmarkets.com. You just might be advancing the cause of liberty around the world. We are talking a little bit about cryptocurrency here, specifically a fairly mainstream hypocrite when it comes to crypto, and that is the New York City mayor, Eric Adams. Just took office in January, and while he was campaigning, he pledged to accept his first 3 paychecks in Bitcoin and Ethereum. However,
how is he going to do that? Does he have the authority once elected to just like issue whatever he wants?
Excellent question.
Because
he couldn't issue it. The city would have to buy it from somewhere,
right? And then
unless they confiscated some or something from a drug dealer or whatever.
It seems like
innocent.
It sounds like a fraudulent promise that he probably doesn't have the power to actually do once he gets elected.
Yeah, I don't know how that's panned out, right? Because presumably he's gotten a paycheck by now. I've not been paying close attention to what's been going on with him.
Even if he can eventually get a paycheck in crypto, which maybe he can, it's going to take some amount of time probably to make that happen.
Maybe. I mean, let's presume he got it. Whatever. Okay, so he got his paycheck, and he said he was willing to take his first 3 paychecks. That's not a real big commitment.
No, it's not. That was the other thing I thought was pretty funny.
Like, why would you just take 3 if you really are into cryptocurrency and you can get the city to actually pay you in it? Why wouldn't you want every single paycheck to be in Bitcoin?
It's a publicity stunt is all it is.
That's what it was, because then he changed his tune after what happened? Environmentalists criticized him for not taking a more forceful stand against the mining process, which green activists say will expedite the negative effects of climate change due to the sheer amount of energy required to create the digital coins.
Banks use way more energy than
they sure do.
This is such a ridiculous argument because, again, I've said this so many times. Most of what you're generating is based on waste electricity. It's stuff that's already being generated. It's just not being utilized. Yeah. And it's usually the most efficient, cheapest stuff you can get, which is like hydropower, right? So it's not like the wheels stop spinning on those generators, just because, in the midnight or whatever, right? The industry during the day, uses that electricity, but at night it's not using the electricity, but those wheels don't stop generating it. So,
and indeed, guess what?
Hamsters keep running, and
guess what the controversy is about? It's about a power plant in New York State, in upstate, actually in the Finger Lakes region, where we've got a radio station a couple of radio stations that air the show. So apparently, this gas-powered plant is using what is probably their extra power.
Waste, yep, because they leak that a lot of these wells leak, and I've heard of other. Is this one of those situations where they're using basically the leakage from the well to generate the power?
Well, I don't know all the details, but the Seneca Lake, which is the largest of the Finger Lakes, it's got a power plant called Green Ridge Generation that is got a crypto mining operation. They claim is carbon neutral, whatever that means. But the Seneca Lake Guardian, an environmental nonprofit, is praising the New York City mayor for coming out against cryptocurrency mining, saying, quote, they're relieved to see that Mayor Adams has heard us and understands the major threats that Bitcoin mining poses to the New York State. It makes me wonder, is the mayor going to show how serious he is now by doing raids on Bitcoin miners in the city limits? Because, if he's really serious about saving the environment, he needs to start putting people behind bars.
That assumes that, I presume that assumes that it's illegal, but it's not illegal last time I checked.
It's not.
That doesn't necessarily stop them from arresting
people. That's true. It really doesn't.
Quote, Bitcoin mining could cost New Yorkers millions of dollars in energy bills. How's that exactly?
Doubtful.
Sounds like
I mean, it sounds like they're arguing that it's going to increase the demand for electricity, which is going to increase the prices, which is then thus going to cause more. But the problem with that argument is that, again, it only makes sense. You only make money off of mining crypto if the price is low enough. So you're not going to cause it to go up beyond what would be profitable. And because there's other people mining it for less, it means that any place that doesn't have a surplus supply, it's not going to make sense to mine.
That's one thing that you can say is for sure about these environmentalists is they don't understand the economy. They don't understand the market, and they just understand fear and political power, right?
And linear extrapolation.
So Green Ridge Generation insists their plant is carbon neutral and not having a major impact on the environment. The CEO said recently that, quote, the claim that Green Ridge's fully permitted operation would have any impact on the quality and viability of Seneca Lake is beyond absurd. And anyway, they just go on to some general statements about mining.
If I recall, I think this is the power plant that was shut down because basically there wasn't enough demand for electricity, and then they started it back up again.
I don't know.
I think it's this. Wow. I think that's the one they're talking about here. But basically, what's ridiculous is if it was environmentally harmful. If it's environmentally harmful now, when they're generating crypto with it, it would have been environmentally harmful previously too.
When anyone was taking their power,
right? But nobody was using it, so they shut it down. And
if that's true, you don't know for sure,
right? Again, like I said, I'm not 100% sure if this is the same power plant, because there was another story out in New York where they were concerned about. I think it had to do with something about the heat and the lake levels going up.
That's one of the claims from the environmentalists here is that it's going to heat the lake up.
Yeah, which kind of makes sense, but at the same time, if that was the case, why did they build the power plant there in the first place? And operate it for all those years prior to it shutting down?
Frustrating.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's just a pretty entertaining story where this guy is saying he's still for crypto, just not against, or he's against the mining of cryptocurrencies. So yeah, it's ridiculous. The number here is 603-283-6160. If you want to join us in other related news, you are going to be seeing a lot of crypto ads if you watch the Super Bowl this year. Now, I don't know if any of the three of us regularly watch the Super Bowl.
Sports ball? No, I wouldn't notice that.
The big game, as they call it in advertising.
Now, is this soccer?
No.
Is it
You're
football?
Pretending, right? Are you really? You're pretending?
Football.
I get confused. I think there's like one that's like the worldwide thing, and like all sorts of sports get together, and then there's another one.
You're thinking of the Olympics.
The Olympics, yes.
That's happening now, too.
Oh, okay.
So the Olympics is actually...
which one is this?
And they've got, the athletes are getting quarantined in horrible conditions.
In China? Is it in China this time?
In China, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. God, who would set foot in China for any reason? I can't imagine it.
Yeah, good question.
Nothing could motivate me to go to China.
Not even a gold medal?
Not even a gold medal.
I got other people going to China for me. I don't need to go.
So, just in case, for those of you out there who are like Chris and you don't know what we're talking about, the Super Bowl is the NFL's championship game, and that is the National Football League. It's the United States.
I'm so confused. Soccer,
it's the big game.
Football?
No, it's not soccer.
Soccer,
This is
football?
American football. The pigskin.
I don't know the difference.
He's playing, right?
They skinned a cop?
There's more coming up here in moments. 603-283. Now, people would pay for that one. 6160.
If you want to bring more liberty into your community, there's something you should see. Intercoin, the movement you might want to join. If you like Bitcoin, break through. It's true. It's truly something new. If you'd like to see real prosperity, start your own currency, boost the economy. Intercoin, the movement you might want to join. If you like Bitcoin, its impact's hard to overstate. Results you can appreciate. If you're tired of relying on the state, want to make your own community great. Homelessness and hunger to eliminate. Let the wealth accumulate. Don't wait for the growth rate to accelerate. Go to intercoin.org and get the coins for yourself.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks.
Russia could choose in very short order to commence a major military action against Ukraine.
U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan warning that the Russians have now arrayed sufficient forces on the country's border with Ukraine and in neighboring Belarus that the likelihood of an invasion is growing. He indicated U.S. intelligence reports suggest an invasion would begin with aerial bombardments of the country, cyber warfare, and then a substantial ground offensive. And he indicated the government in Kiev may not survive.
There are very real possibilities that it will involve the seizure of a significant amount of territory in Ukraine and the seizure of major cities, including the capital city.
He denied reports suggesting President Biden has told NATO allies that the U.S. now believes President Putin has taken a final decision to invade. He said he had seen no intelligence to support those claims, but he issued a plea to American citizens in Ukraine to leave now, saying there would be no U.S. military rescue operation after any Russian attack begins.
We obviously cannot predict the future. We don't know exactly what is going to happen. But the risk is now high enough, and the threat is now immediate enough, that this is what prudence demands. If you stay, you are assuming risk, with no guarantee that there will be any other opportunity to leave, and no prospect of a U.S. military evacuation in the event of a Russian invasion.
President Biden is spending the weekend at Camp David talking to his national security team and awaiting a response from Moscow. Mr. Sullivan said the president is willing to talk to President Putin. European governments are ordering their citizens to evacuate Ukraine. The Pentagon is sending 3,000 more troops from the 82nd Airborne to Poland. Earlier today, Russia's defense minister pledged in talks with his British counterpart that there are no invasion plans. But it is apparent that in Washington, that promise is simply no longer believed. In other news today, the Biden administration is urging the Canadian government to resolve trucker protests that are now disrupting travel and trade along the US-Canadian border. From FSN's Washington bureau, Caroline Malone with that story.
Groups of truckers have blocked the Ambassador Bridge connecting Ontario to Detroit for 4 straight days. They're calling themselves the Freedom Convoy against vaccine mandates and other COVID-19 restrictions. The Transport Link is the busiest US-Canada border crossing, which accounts for at least 25% of all trade between the two nations. There's already been a big impact on car manufacturing, with some plants halting production while they wait for parts. Authorities in the United States are also concerned that similar protests could block major US cities. Caroline Malone, Washington.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FS.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live. Phones open. You can join us here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. So you can bring up anything you want here. We just kind of been off on a side tangent of some crypto-related stories. I was mentioning that the Super Bowl is going to have a bunch of cryptocurrency advertisements for like the first time. And it's more than one company. So all of a sudden, and you know, people pay attention to, you don't, Chris, obviously pay attention to the Super Bowl. I don't really pay attention. I don't even know who's playing, but I know the event exists, and I know about when it happens. It's usually like the first couple weeks of February, the last week in January, usually somewhere in that range. So I'm guessing it's coming up Sunday, but I don't know 100%. But one of the things that people actually pay a lot of attention to during the Super Bowl isn't so much the game itself, but the advertisements that happened during the Super Bowl. And the reason is because, well, there's some of the better ones that are produced because there's a ton of people watching the Super Bowl. It's one of the most watched events.
Is this the one where they spend like millions of dollars on
per
ads,
second
like
or whatever?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, this is the one.
I've heard of this.
Yeah. These are because you're hitting a huge audience of people. This is like the most watched television event of the year. Probably of the planet, but certainly inside the United States. It's very, very highly watched. And so it is the most expensive advertising you can buy on television. And now apparently cryptocurrency companies like Crypto.com and a couple of exchanges, FTX and Coinbase, are booking commercial time during the most watched media event of the year. This according to Protocol.com. Oh, and here's who's playing. The Los Angeles Rams and the Cincinnati Bengals will be playing at SoFi Stadium, which is another player in crypto buying, and the point-of-sale systems at the venue are run by Square, whose parent company renamed itself Block to emphasize its push into Bitcoin. But you won't get any relief after the Super Bowl ends either. Crypto's advertising push is just getting started. There have been SafeMoon billboards in Times Square, Bitcoin ads on Hong Kong trams, and even crypto promos inside of fortune cookies. It's just going to grow as crypto exchanges make a grab for mainstream customers.
You know, I remember Dash having an ad on a plane.
JetBlue.
Yeah, back in the day. But I haven't seen anything super recently. I think there was a Wendy's had some advertising like on screen in a Wendy's at one point that I saw, but I haven't really seen.
You mean a crypto company had an ad in a Wendy's?
Wendy's was advertising the price of Bitcoin, or I don't know, something like that, right? In like on their Wendy's channel or something. It was kind of weird, but yeah, so but I haven't really seen too much other advertising since then.
Well, you also don't, get out into the advertising world, and neither do I. I don't watch television. I mean, but every now and then we hear about things.
Right, absolutely.
And we did hear about the Crypto.com ads. We actually discussed them. We played it on the air a few weeks ago, where Matt Damon is walking through this sort of computer-generated set, and as he's walking through, there's like astronauts.
Oh yeah, I saw
and
that.
There's like somebody on a big ship, like one of the discovering kind of ships from back in the day, and like all these sort of epic things that have happened in history. And he, says fortune favors the brave, and it's an advertisement for a crypto exchange called Crypto.com. And the ad got ripped up in the mainstream media. There were people that were really critical of it. I thought it was cool. Like, I thought, oh, okay, hey, Matt Damon, he's a name. They hired this guy, and turns out Matt Damon's actually into crypto, apparently. And I'm not going to say that buying cryptocurrency is on the level of walking on the moon necessarily, but it
it's
can make a
ad,
difference.
People,
Yeah.
I mean, like seriously.
Well, I guess Elon Musk is holding a lot of cryptocurrency, so buying cryptocurrency might lead to people walking on the moon.
Could be, and it certainly can be a life-changing event. It can be something that could lead to you becoming more wealthy in the future.
This is kind of an interesting one. I mean, I think it may have. I don't want to say it was done. I don't think it was done in poor taste so much, but I don't necessarily know that I thought it was the greatest ad ever. But I definitely think that what the messaging was like that this is revolutionary. That messaging I thought was spot on.
Right.
So.
And that's what a lot of people were criticizing about it, but a lot of people still don't understand crypto.
Right.
So, of course, they're going to criticize the thing they don't understand. Now, the Super Bowl takeover is drawing comparisons to the year 2000's .com Bowl, when a fifth of the ad space during the game then went to internet startups. A lot of those companies went bust, of course, as many have pointed out. That said, the Super Bowl is, quote, the single most efficient media buy on the planet. The number of impressions delivered in that period of time is unmatched by any other standard and by any other media opportunity out there. That's hard to believe. Like that these very expensive ads are the most efficient of all advertising.
It's probably
how many of these people are sober and wearing shirts though?
Great question. Yeah.
I mean, it's probably got something to do with the price point. I mean, it's like bulk advertising, right? Like you're getting a bulk rate effectively.
Right. You're getting a completely scattershot across no specific demographics.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just getting whoever's watching the
sports
Super Bowl.
fans, but
everybody but us.
A lot of people watch.
That's true.
A lot of people watch the Super Bowl who aren't sports fans.
That's true too.
Super Bowl ads are famously expensive, going up to $7 million for a 30-second slot this year because of their reach. It's not a surprise that they are sold out. Last year's ads generated over 6.3 billion impressions, 26 million online views, and 64 billion social impressions. And let me skip down here a little bit. So they're talking about the different brands that are going to be advertising Gemini, FTX, Crypto.com, Binance, apparently. So several of these major players in the cryptocurrency exchange sphere are going to be weighing in here. Binance is mocking its rivals with a celebrity ad campaign that attacks celebrity ad campaigns. Basketball player Jimmy Butler and musician J Balvin tell viewers to do their own research. But it's not just TV ads. Crypto.com has now scored the naming rights to LA's what was formerly known as the Staples Center. Staples is out, and Crypto.com is now in. So it's now the Crypto.com Center in Los Angeles, which cost them $700 million for that sponsorship. Crypto exchange FTX inked a $135 million and $17.5 million deals for the naming rights to the Miami Heat's arena and the field at California Memorial Stadium, while other crypto firms are also partnering with sports leagues in sponsorship deals. So we're really in an interesting place right now, right? Where, several years ago, like you said, Dash was the only organization doing this. And by the way, Dash is a decentralized autonomous organization, and they are the first decentralized autonomous organization, and they're a successful one because they still exist. Definitely. But they were doing advertising on, I think they had a race car, or they had a racing jet or something like that at one point. They had the JetBlue ads that ran as you were taking off. They would play on the back seats.
I feel like I saw that at one point.
I know Matt, my roommate, had seen it. He called me once. He's like, dude, I just saw a Dash advertisement.
I regularly, I forget where, but one of the destinations I go every year, or I was before COVID, was, I always fly JetBlue, so it probably was.
You saw it then,
yeah. I probably saw it.
And those are interesting. That's a cool advertising campaign. You're getting in front of an individual's eyes. They are captive audience, whereas during the Super Bowl, it's like, how many people are paying attention during the ads? They're taking a break. They're in the bathroom. They're getting some chips or whatever. So, you're not getting all 6 million or 60 million or however many viewers that there are.
They're vomiting.
Are you sure about that? I feel like the most of these people are watching these ads.
A lot of people like to watch the ads. That's true. They're very entertaining.
And I feel like people watch the ads who didn't watch the Super Bowl too.
There are those people too. Yeah, that's true.
But I don't know what the numbers are actually statistically.
But it's interesting that we're in this place now where cryptocurrency is so big that a lot of these companies are now figuring, all right, we're just going to advertise to everyone. We're going to advertise to sports fans. We're going to advertise to people who are drunk. We're going to advertise to... We've got so much money. We've got $700 million extra. Let's buy an entire sports stadium sponsorship for 5 years or however many years that gets you.
I just wish that there would be more promotion to businesses to accept cryptocurrencies. Because I think that's really where
first you got to get people to believe in and to buy into and to want. Because why is a business going to accept something that no one's asking them to accept?
Yeah, that's true.
So there's that.
And the other thing is, if business owners want crypto,
the
easiest way to get it is to accept it. So make them want it,
more
and
coming
they'll
up.
accept it.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? you can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Should you be able to earn an honest living free from senseless government interference? The Institute for Justice thinks so. That's why we've spent years defending hard-working men and women from pointless government regulations. Nationwide, IJ has created opportunity by reducing government power, but there is still more work to be done. Visit our website today at ij.org. Let IJ take care of the government so you can take care of your business.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
This is Free Talk Live. You can bring up anything you want here. The number is 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And we're going to get into the story that I actually wanted to start the show with here tonight about the latest from the Freedom Convoy up in Ottawa, where the Ontario government goons, specifically a man named Doug Ford, and you may recognize that name because he is the brother of the crack-smoking, now-deceased mayor of Toronto, Rob Ford. You remember that story?
Yeah, I remember that guy.
Well, guess what? His brother's an a-hole, too, and he's also a politician. In fact, he's the premier of the Ontario province. So we'll talk about that a little bit here, but also I do want to make sure that you know about Give Directly. We're doing a fundraiser for some very, very poor people in extreme poverty in Bomet and Kilifi counties in Kenya. You can contribute over at give.freetalklive.com. They give directly. It's organization's called Give Directly. They give directly to people in need, and they find that actually helps them by allowing them to make their own decisions, helps them get employment, nutrition, health, and education into their lives. And if you prefer the idea of people choosing for themselves how to spend their money, then we're going to back you up by doubling your donation, matching your donations over at give.freetalklive.com up to a total of $30,000. That's give.freetalklive.com. Thank you in advance, and thank you to everybody who has contributed thus far to that fundraiser. So the truckers are still there. They're still throwing parties in the streets. There's still dancing going on. There's still a lot of fun being had. But boy, the government gang, they are making a big deal out of this, and they are threatening, and they're getting violent, and they're arresting people, and they're going to take this thing to the next level. So even though the very same politician that I'm about to play audio from, Doug Ford, on the very same day announced that he's planning to remove the vaccine passport system, planning to, quote-unquote, go back to normal, according to a secretly recorded phone call with this guy. So on one hand, he's going to remove the restrictions, supposedly. But on the other hand, here's what he had to say.
Today, I'm using my authority as Premier of Ontario to declare a state of emergency in our province. And I will convene Cabinet to use legal authorities to urgently enact orders that will make crystal clear it is illegal and punishable to block and impede the movement of goods, people, and services along critical infrastructure. This will include protecting international border crossings, 400 series highways, airports, ports, bridges, and railways.
Just curious, does Canada not have disorderly conduct statutes?
I'm pretty sure that even if they don't have disorderly conduct statutes, they have a law that would
I think they just call it mischief.
Make it illegal to interfere with like the regular course of traffic, right? Like you can't just stop your car on the major highway, even in Canada.
Right. I mean, that's what that's the definition of disorderly conduct. So like why does he need a state of emergency to do these things? I mean, these are things that have been prohibited in Western systems forever.
It's probably because he's trying to ramp up the like power. You know, he wants more power.
Oh yeah, that's for sure.
That's probably what it comes down to. I mean, it's probably not, and he probably kind of effectively doesn't have that power because it will look bad if he does do something. So like he's just kind of like, I don't know, trying to scare people into going away or leaving or something.
That could be, and maybe he's hoping to try to play this from both ends, right? On one hand, we're going to get rid of the vaccine passports. On the other hand, okay, we're coming down with a crackdown, so y'all leave now.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what he's doing. Anyway, it's definitely tyranny. We're going to go on.
It will also include protecting the safe and essential movement of ambulatory and medical services.
Who have not been prohibited from moving around, by the way. I mean, there's open lanes. Every image, every video I've seen from these protests with the truckers occupying lanes of the streets, there's always one open lane.
Yep. Yeah, they actually, the truckers were fully cooperative and the protesters were fully cooperative of ensuring that ambulances could get from one place to another. Right. I mean, what they were trying to suggest is so ridiculous. This is not what they're making it out to be.
Public transit, municipal and provincial roadways, as well as pedestrian walkways. Fines for noncompliance will be severe, with a maximum penalty of $100,000 and up to a year imprisonment.
Wow.
We will also provide additional authority to consider taking away the personal and commercial licenses of anyone who doesn't comply with these orders.
I mean, this sounds like he's justifying, people taking up arms against the government. When you start taking away people's livelihoods or throwing them in a cage for a year, that goes beyond, peaceful, assembly. I mean, that's a point in which you probably should be taking up arms. I'm not advocating for it.
I'm against violence.
I just want to be clear. I'm not advocating for it, but I'm just saying, like, there is a point in which you can't continue to go along.
People are going to break if you push them too far. People are going to snap. Although, as you say, violence is not the solution. That's
Definitely
what the government does.
But the whole point that I'm making is that the government is pushing people to act violently.
They do.
And they're not acting violently.
They want that. They want that. They want you to get violent.
They want to be able to justify their own violence.
Correct. And then it'll just, look, see, these truckers are violent. Now we need to really crack down.
I mean, they've already been saying they're violent.
But that actually hasn't happened.
Right, I know. That's the whole point.
Yeah, there's been zero violence at these rallies except that which the police have brought.
Correct.
This will not impede the rights of Ontarians to peacefully protest. It will provide additional tools to help stop the illegal occupation of Ottawa and the Ambassador Bridge in Windsor. While these emergency orders will be temporary, we have every intention to bring new legislation forward.
Just 2 weeks to flatten the curve.
Yeah, right. So, $100,000 up to $100,000 fine for what exactly? Hanging out in downtown Ottawa and You know, being in a truck or something. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how
carrying bottles of water effectively, because that's what they've already gasoline cans. But people have been putting water in them because of the absurdity of people being arrested for it.
I wonder if they're going to end up charging people for just having water in those bottles, simply for like essentially forcing the police to question them and to harass them and waste their time.
I mean. Yeah, I mean it's kind of interesting. I suspect they probably are arresting people with water in it, and that's something that that'll be something for the courts to work out later, right? And it doesn't even matter, because honestly, at the end of the day, it doesn't even matter whether there is or is not. They just need the excuse, because what they're trying to do is trying to cause disruption, right? They're trying to take people off the street, and that's just their excuse for doing so. Because even if there is gas in it, right, is that actually a crime? And I'm highly doubting that it's actually a crime under Canadian law. I mean, think about it. People need to put gas in the containers for lawnmowers, if their car runs out of gas down the road.
Yeah, until they're actually pouring the gas into the trucker's tank, then and even then, how is that a crime?
Right, exactly. It's probably not. So that's why it's just
you're saying this whole thing is legally suspect.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Well, we're going to see what happens here. We're definitely going to keep an eye on this situation. Again, tomorrow will be the official 2-week mark, although many of the drivers started on Friday 2 weeks ago. So I tend to count Friday as the 2-week marker here. So we're entering into the 3rd week now of this protest, and the government has been ramping up their violence and ramping up the enforcement. They've been taking people's firewood. They've been taking gasoline. They've been prohibiting people from putting up bouncy houses.
Has anybody...
They've been taking the bouncy houses?
They prohibited some dudes from putting a bouncy house up today. Yeah, there was a video I saw of that.
I believe it.
Good God.
I am curious as to whether or not...
How can you take a man's bouncy house? That's low.
I'm very curious as to whether or not this protest has actually grown as a reaction to the government's actions, as opposed to, because if I was in Canada, I would absolutely be going up there, right, and partaking in this, especially
if I could get there, I'd be there now.
Even if some of us can't go to Canada,
they won't let me in.
Persona non grata in Canada.
Yes, and that was prior to I believe Ian, the raid, correct?
Oh yeah, no, nobody and I can't go in because we've got criminal convictions. Nobody sold some weed at some point, and I stood in front of a police car, which you also did, nobody. And
I did that too.
They don't like it when you do that kind of stuff.
But I hope there's more people, getting on board now, especially now, even if you didn't early on.
Come on out. It's the weekend. It's a perfect opportunity to head up to the capital there in Canada and show your support for the drivers who are still sticking it out, heroically sticking it out up there.
Maybe we can get some truckers to come chill down at the New Hampshire border crossing. We could go.
Oh, there's already talks.
We could go there.
I think there's already talks about that.
Well, hopefully tomorrow night we are going to have Reed Coverdale, who is a libertarian truck driver who hosts his own podcast. We'll talk to him and see what's going on in the USA Freedom Convoy tomorrow night, hopefully right at the beginning of the show. See you then.
Sounds good.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
This is the Liberty Radio Network, broadcasting the latest liberty-oriented audio content 24 hours a day at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Simon Marks.
Russia could choose, in very short order, to commence a major military action against Ukraine.
U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan warning that the Russians have now arrayed sufficient forces on the country's border with Ukraine and in neighboring Belarus that the likelihood of an invasion is growing. He indicated U.S. intelligence reports suggest an invasion would begin with aerial bombardments of the country, cyber warfare, and then a substantial ground offensive. And he indicated the government in Kiev may not survive.
There are very real possibilities that it will involve the seizure of a significant amount of territory in Ukraine and the seizure of major cities, including the capital city.
He denied reports suggesting President Biden has told NATO allies that the U.S. now believes President Putin has taken a final decision to invade. He said he had seen no intelligence to support those claims, but he issued a plea to American citizens in Ukraine to leave now, saying there would be no U.S. military rescue operation after any Russian attack begins.
We obviously cannot predict the future. We don't know exactly what is going to happen. But the risk is now high enough, and the threat is now immediate enough, that this is what prudence demands. If you stay, you are assuming risk, with no guarantee that there will be any other opportunity to leave, and no prospect of a U.S. military evacuation in the event of a Russian invasion.
President Biden is spending the weekend at Camp David, talking to his national security team and awaiting a response from Moscow. Mr. Sullivan said the president is willing to talk to President Putin. European governments are ordering their citizens to evacuate Ukraine. The Pentagon is sending 3,000 more troops to Poland. Earlier today, Russia's defense minister pledged in talks with his British counterpart that there are no invasion plans. But it is apparent that in Washington, that promise is simply no longer believed. In other news today, the Biden administration is urging the Canadian government to resolve trucker protests that are now disrupting travel and trade along the US-Canadian border. From FSN's Washington bureau, Caroline Malone with that story.
Groups of truckers have blocked the Ambassador Bridge connecting Ontario to Detroit for 4 straight days. They're calling themselves the Freedom Convoy against vaccine mandates and other COVID-19 restrictions. The Transport Link is the busiest US-Canada border crossing, which accounts for at least 25% of all trade between the two nations. There's already been a big impact on car manufacturing, with some plants halting production while they wait for parts. Authorities in the United States are also concerned that similar protests could block major US cities. Caroline Malone, Washington.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks. Today, at length, a clarion warning about the dangers facing global democracy. It came yesterday from former British Prime Minister Sir John Major speaking at the Institute for Government.
In each of the last 15 years, democracy has shrunk a little as political and civil liberties have been diminished. In many countries,